Apocalyptic Black Technology System. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 65 The Attacking Lin Yuandong. Chapter 65 The Attacking Lin Yuandong. When the soldier came to Li Ji with news about Zhang Jianguo, Li Ji was receiving messages from the front line. The front line here is not the insect swarm in Xinjiang province that is still approaching Xinjiang city, but the real front line, the battlefield of the fleets. Just now, the battle took a surprising turn. Judging from the feedback information, first the suspected top-level particle beam weapons opened fire in the outer sea of Chendicheng, and the fleet was in jeopardy. Immediately after the Yuncheng took off, it immediately launched a terrifying attack, and quickly rushed into space, chasing a ship. The enemy ship has not yet been identified, and the military has limited information on the front line of Chendicheng. The only thing that can be confirmed is, Fugalo has been occupied by the spore life, and he turned his back before the battle, and the swarm was defeated. This series of changes, from the decline of the battleship to countermeasures, Li Ji failed to get the most comprehensive information in only 5 or 6 minutes, but judging from the results, he can also guess the outcome of this battle. There are turbulent waves. The swarm pretended to cooperate with Su Ran to besiege the alien flying saucer under Kyushu Island. In fact, the swarm had already reached a conspiracy with the alien flying saucer, and when the Xinjiang Chang fleet entered the area of Kyushu Island, they launched a thunderous attack. However, what the insect swarm did not expect was that Su Ran had already prepared for this, and joined forces with the spore life that had already invaded Fugalo's control, and counterattacked. The battle cluster was swallowed up in one gulp, and the alien flying saucer was directly defeated by the Yuncheng, which was hidden by Su Ran in the finale, and fled into space in a panic. Li Jiguang was imagining, and his blood was boiling, and he wished he could join in it. However, what he didn't know was that in this battle, there was another secondary fleet that was raiding the swarm's reinforcements. Good fight. Good fight. Li Ji couldn't help but patted the table, as if he was on the battlefield. The combination of the swarm and the alien flying saucer was definitely beyond Su Ran's expectations, but he and the alliance of the spore life was obviously achieved before. That is to say, he planned to count the insect swarm before swallowing the Sky Watcher swarm and the large swarm of insects along the Kyushu Island. So what was his initial strategic purpose? Yan Hulong's face beside him was extremely ugly. That's right, he didn't cooperate with the swarm, he beat the swarm, but he also sacrificed our new capital. He is also a military war criminal. Li Ji ignored him at all, paced back and forth, very excited. If he hadn't needed to deal with the deployment of the new capital, I'm afraid he would have sat down to deduce the next battle situation right now. At this moment, another level of army commander said, for the fleet, there are a large number of heavy transport vehicles heading to our side. What are they doing? And at this very moment, the soldier finally came to the command center with Zhang Jianguo's information and informed the officers here. Hearing that Su Ran had left 10 turbo laser cannons and 15 directed energy rapid-fire cannons for them, the headquarters was surprisingly silent for a few seconds. Then everyone became excited. An emergency meeting was called immediately among the officers. Li Ji said, the insect swarm on the front line of Kyushu Island in the Pacific Ocean was defeated by Su Ran, and the command system of the insect swarm must be in chaos now. With these weapons, we will definitely be able to hold on to the new capital until the fleet returns. If we can, with the assistance from Korea or Kyoto, we can even eat the insect swarms located in the south and east of the current Xinjiang city. Same moment 300 nautical miles east of Yingzhou Island, the second fleet led by Lin Yuandong was fighting with the reinforcements of the swarm. It was a kind of insect nest that Lin Yuandong had never seen before. Less than 1/10 of the area is exposed above the sea level, and the exposed part is a huge platform. Its area can be half as large as the new capital city. In the ocean, it is like an island moving. And the speed is extremely fast, more than 200 knots per hour, and its appearance is also different from the uneven appearance of ordinary insect nests. The exposed platform is neat and smooth, just like the back of a whale. On it, there are groups of plasma cannon arrays. The plasma cannon here is not the plasma cannon on the whaler's body, but a gun barrel state similar to Vigalo's, combined with a form of biological weapons. The number of gun barrels on this platform is nearly 1,000, and the range is extremely long. It is they who just bombarded the fleet above Kyushu Island hundreds of nautical miles away. When these plasma cannon arrays fire, The terrifying high temperature reached by the formation of plasma will evaporate the surrounding seawater in a large area, and the sea insect nests that are advancing at high speed will be shrouded in water mist, like an animal returning from the depths of the ocean. Godzilla behemoth. From the analysis and modeling of the computer, the scale of this insect nest is extremely large, and the water depth reaches 2 kilometers. Looking from a distance, it seems that the legendary black tortoise carrying the mainland on its back is riding the wind and waves, which makes people feel awe and fear. However, Lin Yuandong realized that this worm nest was likely to be one of the core worm nests in the swarm, or even one of the main bodies of the many worm nests that had fallen from space and disintegrated before. Previously, the insect swarm came from space and entered the Earth with a one-piece battleship similar to a meteorite. It disintegrated in midair, and 2/3 of the first-generation insect nest factories fell to various places on the Earth, quickly manufacturing war insects and producing subordinates. The hive, and 1/3 of it, the portion considered the core brood, made its way into the Central Pacific. Lin Yuandong is sure even if this platform worm nest is not the core brood, it must be the top brood that guards the core. Lin Yuandong's second fleet consists of a frigate and 2 heavy bombers. Although these 3 battleships are not as good as Yuncheng, they are all combat units that can participate in interstellar battles. Lin Yuandong's flagship frigate is 1,037 meters long, equipped with 2 sets of superconducting electromagnetic guns, equipped with missile launch systems, deep space torpedoes, and short-range laser cannons. According to Lin Yuandong's plan, they originally wanted to quietly sail directly to the top of the platform insect nest, and directly bomb the nest with a full load of bombers, but they were scattered in the sky by the insect swarm as they approached. The floating warning group found out, and almost instantly, the muzzles of the 1,000 guns of the mother nest on the offshore platform were turned in unison, and the blue plasma beam ignited the entire night sky. Seeing this, Lin Yuandong no longer hid, and directly issued an order: get out of the invisible state, raise the shield, and move forward at full speed with the entire fleet. We are less than 5 nautical miles away from the brood. In 3 minutes, we will rush over and take the. It blows up to be the prettiest kid in the Pacific. All the bombers and units at all levels immediately heard howling ghosts and wolves in response. Damn it, blow him up, boss. Let's kill them. Chapter 66 Confrontation. In space, Earth has become the gigantic backdrop for Cloud City. The surroundings were surrounded by a dark space environment, and the space mines and torpedoes from the unknown flying saucer were all wiped out by Su Ran with powerful firepower. In mid-air, the Yuncheng passed by in the light of the gorgeous explosion, and it seemed that it could not feel any danger and urgency of the chase in silence. But inside the Yuncheng, from the bridge to every important module, everyone is in a state of highly tense combat, keeping an eye on the changes on the battlefield all the time. And at this moment, in the multiple detection radars of the Yuncheng, the unknown flying saucer that was fleeing in front of the fleet suddenly disappeared. Just now it suddenly disappeared from the monitoring of the Yuncheng system. It seemed that in such a short moment, it had already run far enough. Although the starry sky is vast, it is difficult to observe it with the naked eye at this macro scale. Su Ran immediately said, find out where they are. Have they leaped? Or are they invisible? A crew member asked. Report to the commander. Shall we continue to pursue the original route or slow down the search? Su Ran said, keep chasing. I don't believe that in such a short period of time, it can leap away under our noses without being detected by us. This is impossible. The flying saucer must be at a certain position, and the flying saucer released our unmanned reconnaissance aircraft, PolNet type. Before Su Ran's order was completed, the Yuncheng immediately sounded the alarm warning. There is a giant warship appearing 15 kilometers directly above our ship. It is confirmed that it is the flying saucer that just disappeared. It is dropping a large number of physical bombs on our ship. In space, at the top of the head of the Yuncheng, which was traveling at high speed, the figure of the huge flying saucer, which was completely invisible, suddenly appeared. Billowing thick smoke, going up and down, like 2 lines with Su Ran's Yuncheng in space. Flying in parallel like lightning, keep pace with each other. At the same time, the bomb bays and torpedo bays of all levels of the flying saucer turned back from the front like lightning opened. A large number of missile torpedoes whizzed out, from top to bottom. They opened fire on Su Ran's Yuncheng as if they were bombing, all using solid bombs. If someone can watch from the side at this moment, they will be able to see that the seemingly chaotic bombardment of physical bullets flying out of the flying saucer is actually regular, centered on 2 torpedoes with peculiar shapes. They formed 2 bombing groups respectively, and flew towards the Yuncheng directly below at high speed. Li Yilan's face changed slightly, and she said in surprise, is this flying saucer planning to put all its eggs in one basket? With the obstruction of the space firepower just now, it didn't escape, but came close to us in one breath. What does it want to do? Is it dead? Evade immediately. Turn around the nearest anti-aircraft guns and short-range guns, and intercept their strikes for me. However, Su-Ran's face changed slightly. He realized that this flying saucer used physical bullets to hit its own shielded battleship, and there must be an absolute reliance to turn defeat into victory. However, it was too late. Previously, in order to clear the torpedoes and space mines directly ahead, most of the forts of the Yuncheng were aimed at the front and the two wings. Time to readjust the muzzle, and this level of interception, for these two bombing groups, can at most consume the defense layer on their outer circles in the silent fire that bloomed like fireworks. The two peculiar torpedoes were penetrating the flames and the shock waves of cascading explosions, like free-falling bodies, falling steadily at a parallel speed to the battleship directly below these two torpedoes. Destroy them. It was too late when the computer analyzed the model and found the two torpedoes of the dense mass of live ammunition. They had already penetrated through layers of protection and approached the outer layer of the Yuncheng. Infinitely, the shield of Yuncheng was fully covered immediately, ready to make impact preparations. However, these two strange torpedoes exploded outside the shields of the Cloud City. This is, the extremely tense atmosphere on the bridge froze for a moment, as if no one thought that this would be a thunderous blow with little rain, but this thought was overthrown the next moment. A huge electric light burst out. The systems at all levels of the Yuncheng immediately issued a piercing alarm warning. A strong electromagnetic pulse has been detected. The alarm sounded only halfway through and then stopped abruptly because at that moment, accompanied by the burst of electric light that could be observed by the naked eye, it was a super strong electromagnetic pulse strike. Those were two electromagnetic pulse bombs, and their strength was far greater than any electromagnetic pulse weapon Su-Ran knew on Earth. In just 2 shots, hundreds of rounds of strong electromagnetic wave pulses were continuously stirred up in an instant. The burst of pulses immediately disintegrated the shield system and swept across the entire ship of Yuncheng. The shield system was the first to go out, and the shield generator at the top of the Cloud City exploded a series of sparks immediately afterwards. The naval guns went out, the engines went out, and the propellers went out. At this moment, the Yuncheng was going up and down, and the lights were turned off, as if it had become a dark ghost ship floating in the universe. Under the pull of inertia and rear gravity, it began to travel in a twisted arc, and the brilliant flash of the distant sun shining on its body, it reflected a little bright refraction. Many soldiers in the fleet even let out screams, and the thought protection shields in their ears suddenly shattered and fell to the ground. Some people even bleed from the 7 orifices. Su-Ran's face was also ugly. He felt the benefit of the dark energy transformation at this time. He didn't have any particularly bad reactions except nausea and dizziness. However, when he lowered his head, he saw that his arm, which was pressed against the armrest, was slowly floating up inside the Yuncheng. It is entering a state of zero-gravity system? Su-Ran shouted at the first time. After receiving the usual useless response from the system, he was slightly relieved and planned to check the line immediately and restart the Yuncheng. Su-Ran turned her head and glanced at the outer space. Following the extinguishment of the Yuncheng, the slowing down course was distorted, and she also slightly distanced herself from the flying saucer. At this moment, Su-Ran could see bright flashes floating from the flying saucer. Those flashes were all blows. They flashed out of Su-Ran's side in an instant, and then hit the Yuncheng. Amidst the loud noise, the Yuncheng vibrated, and when the gravity weakened, Su-Ran was almost thrown from his position, and that alien flying saucer is moving sideways at high speed. Miscalculated, too impatient. I didn't expect that the flying saucer would still come out with such a trump card. Damn it. Su-Ran's heart sank all the way. She gritted her teeth, and glanced at the figures lying on the ground behind her. Whoever is still conscious, prepare to fight immediately. Chapter 67 Star Drop. Chapter 67, Star Drop. Pacific Ocean, 300 nautical miles east of Kyushu Island. The 2nd Fleet with Lin Yuandong as the main commander is penetrating the last 5 kilometers. In the plasma beams flying all over the sky, it is infinitely approaching the sky above the huge sea platform like brood. For this reason, the shield of the frigate where Lin Yuandong was located was completely destroyed, and the entire battleship was billowing with thick smoke. A bomber was damaged in many places and was descending obliquely, which made it a target of public criticism. It was hit repeatedly. Looking from where Lin Yuandong was, one could even see that the bomber was already lit with open flames in front of them. A dense array of plasma cannons was pointing obliquely at the sky, forming the last line of defense. making it difficult for Lin Yuandong's second fleet to move forward. The closer the distances, the greater the threat these plasma turrets posed to the fleet. For the last kilometer, the fleet was unable to move an inch, and had to retreat and evade many times in order to ensure that it would not be destroyed by those plasma cannons in the air and fall to the ground. Damn it! Damn it! Lin Yuandong patted the armrest of his captain's seat heavily, and said, "Aren't we going to be able to make it through this 1 kilometer? How is the shield repaired?" A crew member at the back immediately responded, "Our engineering team and 3 maintenance robots have gone to rush to repair. Our shield was seriously overloaded. After the shield failed, the shield device was penetrated by the enemy's plasma cannon and damaged. The level has reached almost 60%, boom." With a loud bang, the frigate was hit. Lin Yuandong looked at the status column of the battleship on the display screen, and the redness of the flanks became more serious. He said angrily, "What I want to know is how far it has been repaired? When will it be repaired? Don't I know our shields are gone?" The crew member was one of Lin Yuandong's many younger brothers. At this time, he was scolded by his boss, but he didn't show any dissatisfaction. Instead, he lowered his head and said, "It is estimated that it will take at least 90 minutes for our engineering team to repair it. Complete 1.5 hours? After 1.5 hours, our fleet has already been knocked down to feed the bugs in the sea. Let them repair it quickly." Lin Yuandong was furious, but he also knew that he wanted to rely on the shield to get up is almost impossible, and under such circumstances, all 3 warships on my side were seriously damaged. If I ran at this time, I would be shot down from the sky before I ran out of the range of others. Lin Yuandong clenched his fists tightly, but his eyes fell on the scarred bomber directly below him. He is not only a boss, but also a smart person. In fact, he has already thought of a way to sacrifice a bomber with the amount and power of the bombs carried by a bomber. It does not need to hit, as long as it explodes at a location and height close to that offshore platform. It is enough to achieve a field clearing effect, although it is impossible to blow up that offshore platform bug in one go. The nest, but it must be able to sweep the plasma cannon array on it. But it was full of his brothers. No matter what Lin Yuandong said, he couldn't ask them to die under such a battle situation. Hundreds of plasma cannons are here. Not to mention there are countless terrifying bugs in the sea. Falling is death, and there is no other option at all. Therefore, Lin Yuandong could not say such an order anyway. Even if everyone died together, he didn't want to personally order his brother to die. Everyone dies together, nothing to be afraid of. But let his brother die for him. Lin Yuandong couldn't say such an order at all. This is the strength of Lin Yuandong's character, but it is also the shortcoming that he can never avoid. Lin Yuandong clenched his fists tightly. His nails didn't get into the palm of his hand, and blood oozes out. There can't be a defeat here. If he is defeated here, how can he deserve Su Ran's trust? Lin Yuandong knew Su Ran gave these 3 warships to himself, and agreed to let Lin Yuandong use his own people to control the 3 warships. It was because Su Ran felt that only in this way could he ensure the absolute control of the temporary second fleet strength and combat power. This is out of consideration for the situation of the war, but Lin Yuandong is not the kind of fool who takes it for granted. He knows that behind Su Ran's move is absolute trust. Of course, handing over these 3 warships to Lin Yuandong and letting Lin Yuandong appoint the captain and crew is beneficial to the battle situation, but from another perspective, this fleet has almost become Lin Yuandong's private army. Such an appointment can only be made with absolute trust. Lin Yuandong didn't want to disappoint Su Ran, even though he called Su Ran the commander now. In his heart, Su Ran was a good brother he met in Bingchang. How can my brother think highly of me? How can I ruin his fleet here? The frigate was hit again and shook violently, but Lin Yuandong finally made a difficult decision to abandon the cart to protect the commander. However, before his communication command was sent out, the bomber that was continuing to descend actively sent a communication request to connect to Lin Yuandong's bridge. Although the captain above is Lin Yuandong's own brother, he was promoted by Lin Yuandong to join the battleship only through the selection of the fleet. He understands the minimum common sense of the fleet. Therefore, at this moment, the situation is so clear, what Lin Yuandong can think of. Of course, the captain on that bomber can also. The captain of that bomber was Chu Xiangdong. He still had a stubborn head-shaped head. As soon as the communication was connected, he said, "Boss, don't talk, listen to me first, boss. We can't do it. I made an agreement with my brothers. We will fuck today. We will crash into the insect nest below by dive bombing. Please cover our ship." Lin Yuandong opened his mouth, but in the end he only smiled and said, "Don't worry. We are right behind you." Chu Xiangdong laughed, and immediately cut off the communication. Then, The bomber began to change its course, and swooped obliquely from the sky towards the insect nest on the sea platform below the frigate, and another bomber pulled back to cover their firepower in the channel formed by the strikes of rays. The falling bomber was tragically falling towards the sea platform insect nest below. Its hull was hit in many places, and a large number of hull structures and fragments collapsed and flew out. However, the armored vehicle owned by the bomber, which was prepared for the bombing, guaranteed the safety of the bombs inside it. Even from the outside, the entire bomber had been burned, and the bomb storage compartment had not been penetrated for a long time. Lin Yuandong, who was high in the sky, watched the bomber fall in a huge ball of fire that wasn't dive-bombing anymore, that is falling as it fell. It went faster and faster, faster and faster. At this moment, nothing can stop it. At the last 500 meters, the bridge of the bomber was hit and exploded into a ball of gorgeous fireworks. The last thing Chu Xiangdong saw was a blazing fire, which was the flames of death. He laughed because he knew that his brothers were right behind him, and he would break a bloody path for them and tear a gap for the entire fleet in the Pacific Ocean. He has made his last effort. He has accomplished his mission. The frantically firing plasma cannon array failed to stop the star from falling. The bomber that turned into a fireball crashed on the sea platform insect nest, and when the thick smoke was still spreading along the trajectory of the fall, the bomber had completely disintegrated in the impact, and the burning hull structure was in flames. Being thrown, the flames and impact ignited every high explosive bomb in the bomb storage bay. The bombs became hot and bright. It seems that the soldiers who have been carrying forward finally ushered in relief inside the worm nest. The three mantis-like mother nests wrapped in many pipes see at this scene, as if they also felt a bright temperature, raised their heads, and all movements and instructions stopped at this moment and solidified. That scene was like a star falling from the sky. Subsequently, a new day rose in the Pacific Ocean. It was fireworks in full bloom. Chapter 68 Defeat. Chapter 68, Defeat. The combat platform of the sea worm nest was engulfed by the explosion, the frontal shield was ripped open, and a large number of plasma cannon turrets towering towards the sky were submerged, and the powerful firepower net stopped instantly, and this provided an opportunity for Lin Yuandong's fleet. Under the reflection of the blazing fire at sea, two scarred warships pierced the sky, and the last bomber dropped dense bombs vertically in the air, blowing through them all the way above the mother nest of this offshore platform. Lin Yuandong stood on the frigate and stared down, seeing bombs falling into the flames. It was like adding firewood to a fire. Every bomb fell, the explosion below was even stronger. A sharp point. Therefore, looking down from Lin Yuandong's perspective, all he could see was a raging wave of anger that was the wave of fire. The island is falling apart in the modeling graphics sent back from the scan. The brood has been blasted to pieces, and the deconstruction of the main body disintegrated with loud noises, and it sank inch by inch toward the depths of the ocean with the explosion of flames. All kinds of war bugs living on both sides of this offshore platform were also affected. Some were directly killed, and some were submerged by the collapsed bug nests and smashed into the deep sea. It's like a city on the sea has collapsed. Looking at this scene, Lin Yuandong suddenly remembered that a few months ago, they were helpless against the defense of the mother nest of a first-generation factory in Bingcheng, but now, they have enough strength to defeat a larger scale, armed forces head-on. Stronger hives, but the price paid was just as heavy at this time. A crew reported from behind. Boss, a large number of insect swarms were detected in the Pacific Ocean. It should be an array of migratory locusts and electromagnetic jellyfish. They should not come to support, but to drive us away. Lin Yuandong nodded, took a last look at the spectacular scenery below, and turned his head. Command the fleet to cover the return of the bomber. No, it is not a return flight. We will retreat to the sea off Chandicheng, Kyushu Island, and join our main fleet. Having said that, he paused slightly, looked at the many fleet members in the bridge, including his own brothers, smiled slowly, and said, "Everyone, we have won." Under the sky illuminated by the flames, the fleet was turning around and heading back, hundreds of nautical miles away from the mother nest of the offshore platform, in the direction of 30 degrees, 120 degrees, and 170 degrees. The seawater is surging, as if some huge monster is passing through the sea at high speed. That is the swarm killing. But at this moment, because of the change in the battle situation, they suddenly received some kind of order, stopped advancing suddenly, then turned around, turned back and disappeared into the vast sea under the night, and soon disappeared. Dongying, Kyushu Island, and the sea outside Chengdu City. This area has almost been swallowed by seawater, and only a few fragments of the old Chen capital are still floating above the sea level. And in the distance, on a solitary rock out of the water, there is a man in sacrificial attire sitting down on the cold rock, Surrounded by a circle of flames, strangely moving on your bare rock burning. This is an awakened person from Japan, who was the host of the previous grand sacrifice, but now he no longer had the fanaticism and pride he had before, and sat down here like a poor ghost whose soul had been taken away, staring blankly at the sky. At the end of his field of vision, swarms of bugs were being strangled, and the fleet from China was advancing on the battlefield, killing every bug on the battlefield magnificently. The worm nest that stands in the distance and sits on the battlefield of Chengdu City is already burning, completely defeated by Fugalo. The battle situation has been decided, and the fleet from Xinjiang is gaining an overwhelming advantage, and is still expanding its results. As for the flying saucer, it was no longer known where it had gone. The wrinkled face of this Japanese awakener was almost dull. He didn't know why the situation had become like this. He just wants to protect his country and the people of Japan at most. He is a little greedy on such a basic idea. He hopes that Rumpu can use the power of flying saucers to check and balance it, and through this end of the world, he will not only survive, but change the world and become the world, another leader in human society. Under the catastrophe of destruction, there should always be a new king born, right? He wants Dongpu to be the new king. However, things will become like this. How could it become like this? He just has a little trivial greed he didn't understand. Really couldn't figure it out. Why did it lead to such consequences? However, on this land, no one will answer his question. There is no yipping on the rocks of this isolated island, and its foundation has long been shaken by the scouring of the turbulent sea water. In the middle, it is getting farther and farther away from the mainland behind, but that man didn't seem to be aware of it, and he didn't care about it. He just stared blankly at the red sky illuminated by the flames, like a fool. At this moment, of course, no one in the fleet in the sky would notice the Japanese man below. The fleet is continuing to expand. The results of the battle with Fugalo, who has been fully controlled by the spore life. Qiao Xiangjin's goal was to swallow up a large number of war insects gathered in the entire Chen capital city. To prepare for this battle, the insect swarm mobilized a huge number of war insects, and almost all the sea war insects in the Kyushu Island area were mobilized. In fact, these war insects were only fighting together, and the real main force was still the howlers attacking the swarm and the skywatcher attack swarm, as well as the flying saucer in the bug nest on the sea platform ambushed in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. But now, the flying saucer is still fighting Su Ran's Yanchang in space, and the insect nest on the sea platform has been intercepted and killed by Lin Yuandong's second fleet. According to this, 300 nautical miles away, the explosion and burning flames, even it can be seen from afar from the sea outside Chengdu City. As for the Skywatcher battle group and the Whaler attack group, they have also been defeated by the rebellious Fugalo and his fleet at this moment. Therefore, at this time, in this airspace, although there are a large number of war bugs left, they are all basic war bugs. Facing the fleet of Howling Tracer, they have no counterattack power at all. It was a completely one-sided massacre. Swarms of migratory locusts were retreating under the command of the rear worm nest, but Qiao Xiangjin and Spore Life obviously did not intend to let them go. With a Zerg and Fugalo as the core, the insect swarms here are completely encircled and destroyed, and they are bound to stay here forever. If this swarm of insects can be eaten here in one bite, the pressure on the sea area from Kyushu Island to Huaksha Binchang will drop sharply. Qiao Xiangjin was sitting on the captain's seat, in the holographic combat command mode, as if he was personally flying above the sky, leading the fleet to kill the swarm. His eyes were cold. Since the swarm was defeated, they must pay the worst price for their defeat. Chapter 69, The Moment of Closing the Net. At this moment, Qiao Xiangjin received a communication message from Lin Yuandong. Old Qiao, my fleet has already destroyed the support troops of the swarm and is approaching your fleet. Lin Yuandong's picture appeared in front of Qiao Xiangjin, who was in holographic mode, and said, "How are you doing? With the disintegration of the insect swarm, the electromagnetic interference in this area has completely failed, and the communication and radar systems have been fully restored." Lin Yuandong can actually get the situation of Qiao Xiangjin's fleet from the feedback data of his own frigate. Qiao Xiangjin understood that Lin Yuandong was worried about the people in the fleet. He shook his head and said, "The loss is not small, with nearly 1,000 people lost. Although Captain Tong's mandala was not destroyed, the power system, shield system, even the thruster modules are severely damaged, and they are now retreating towards Japan, so they are no longer able to participate in the battle. As for the loss of destroyers, fighter jets and drones, I don't need to talk about it." Lin Yuandong was a little silent. "Is Captain Tong okay? I can't contact her battleship here." "It's okay. The mandala was almost hit by an enemy ship, and their long-distance communication device was burned out. How are you? Qiao Xianjun looked at the feedback of the fleet information in the direction of Lin Yuandong, and his heart sank slightly. A bomber was damaged, but we blew up their main force. It was an unprecedented worm nest that was going to swallow you. I guess it should be one of the core war broods. Chu Xiangdong, that's right. Lin Yuandong showed a reluctant smile. Tell him to shave his head against the captain's words, and get out of the fleet this time. Qiao Xianjun said nothing. He knew that Lin Yuandong and the others had played a huge role. The insect nest on the sea platform was obviously an important ambush for the insect swarm. It was stuck outside their detection limit, invisible and silent, and only at the moment of war did the thunder strike, running thousands of miles away, hundreds of plasma cannons. That's no joke. If Lin Yuandong hadn't intercepted and destroyed it in time, even if few Gallo mutinied and counterattacked, the situation would not be as optimistic as it is now. It's just that before they killed the Howler and Skywatcher attack group, the mother nest of the offshore platform that has been rushed here is besieged here. Qiao Xianjun paid a silent military salute. He was actually curious about where Lin Yuandong went before, but he never thought that he was lying in ambush. However, Su Ran probably didn't expect that the flying saucer and the swarm would join forces at first. As the Zerg swarm and Su Ran played cards one by one, Qiao Xianjun was in it. Although he didn't get the overall information, he could see it clearly now. Su Ran's original purpose was to join forces with this swarm to kill the flying saucer under Kyushu Island, and then counterattack with the help of Figalo, who was secretly controlled by the spore life, to give the swarm a bottom line. Well, Su Ran placed Lin Yuandong's fleet outside the battlefield for the purpose of guarding against the swarm, but more, it should be to guard against the spore life that cooperates with the fleet. After all, in a real fight, no one knows how the spore life will choose and whether it will renege. And because of the particularity of spore life, Su Ran may not have informed Lin Yuandong and the others of their arrangement in advance, but Su Ran obviously didn't expect that the insect swarm, who had always wanted to kill all the aliens, joined hands with the flying saucer and attacked the fleet in turn. After that, they came to the current situation step by step. In the end, our fleet is still the best. These thoughts flashed through Qiao Xianjun's mind. He shook his head and said, Captain Lin, can you still fight? Lin Yuandong said, if we can't fight, we won't lean on your side. What I told Su Ran was, as long as my fleet is not wiped out, no one can touch you. Qiao Xianjun smiled. He and Lin Yuandong have known each other for a long time, but this guy, even though he has served in the fleet to this extent, still has the tone of a big brother in the world. However, Qiao Xianjun straightened his expression immediately, and said, okay, Captain Lin, I need your fleet to cooperate with our department, attack from inside and outside, and we will eat up this batch of war insects. Lin Yuandong responded immediately and led the fleet to speed up. Qiao Xianjun also issued an order immediately, and the whole fleet speeded up to cooperate with Lin Yuandong's fleet. Lin Yuandong's fleet had only one bomber and one frigate left, and the battle damage was also very serious. Facing a huge number of insect swarms, they also had huge risk in the sky. The two fleets gradually became encircled. In the center of the two fleets, the migratory locusts were like a fish caught in a fishing net. Very intense, but already dying, and in the depths of the Pacific Ocean at the rear, there was silence, and it seemed that no reinforcements would try to save this worm swarm. At the same time, Tong Maioki was sending a message to Qiao Xianjun. It was an order requesting disengagement originally. After she retreated, she planned to stabilize in the sky and enter a suspended state in order to receive the next instruction, but the situation on the mandala had dropped below freezing point, and it had to land. Therefore, Tong Maioki stopped insisting, and immediately issued a series of instructions, confirmed the information of leaving the battle, and reported his scheduled landing point. Back away slowly. The long-distance communication equipment of the mandala has failed, and they will be out of communication range after leaving the battle, so they need to send a message in advance. Kyushu Island behind has become the nearest stop of the mandala. During this process, two Nightingale aircraft slowly lifted off from the mandala. They are conventional combat aircraft carried inside the mandala. In this large-scale fleet battle, unless there are special circumstances, no fighting is a fighter. At this time, flying as an escort women on both sides of the scarred mandala, the area around Chendicheng is almost landslide. This is not a good landing point. The landing point is the suggestion given by Hoshino Junksha, which is relatively deep but safe. After what happened just now, the attitude of this Miss Hoshino has quietly changed. Subtly feeling this, Tong Myaoku felt that the choice she made just now was not wrong. One person's mistakes should not be attributed to country. Junction Hoshino is not bad in nature. The mandala flew across the sky and landed at the far end of the mainland. Many embarrassed Japanese fugitives along the way stared at this scene, pointing their fingers. In shock, most of them fled from Chendicheng, and they fled for a long time before escaping from the area affected by the battle. Of course, they also saw the heroic appearance of the fleet from a distance. The conspiracy of the swarm, so I am especially grateful to the fleet. Chapter 70 UFO. Chapter 70, the UFO. When the battleship with billowing smoke flew by, the Dongpa people who fled in panic on the ground raised their heads and waved to the sky. Some people also thought that the battleship should have been damaged and landed, so they acted quickly, taking various vehicles, skimming the desolate land of Kyushu Island in Japan, and rushing to the landing point of the mandala. Looking down from a distance, the scene looked like a river converging, and the crowd was flocking to one place. It's like a pilgrimage again, and in the direction of the farther coastline, the flashes of the fleet propellers running in the sky are gradually fading out at the far end of the sky, and they are about to completely leave people's sight. It came from the ground and became an embellishment in the crimson night. Same moment in space. The fuselage of the Yuncheng has been alarmed in many places, but the bridge of the Yuncheng has barely lighted up. The restart progress of Yuncheng is 37%. Nearly 4 minutes have passed since the Yuncheng was hit. According to this length of time, if it is in a normal state, the Yuncheng has already completed the startup, but because of the interference of the electromagnetic pulse, many of the internal electronic equipment of the Yuncheng are damaged and was burned, which made rebooting extremely slow. The flying saucer was firing from afar at the Cloud City, which was slowly flying towards Earth under the pull of gravity. Looking over there from the position of Suran's bridge, one can see a large expanse of flashing stars flying like raindrops, dotted with stars, which are actually a bit gorgeous in this dark universe, and the faster energy weapons will soon disappear. Hit the Yuncheng, while the live ammunition ran slower. However, these strikes are all conventional weapons. If an enlightenment is here, they may be able to completely destroy an enlightenment in 4 minutes, but the shell of the Cloud City is not the kind of pure voyage starship. It is a mere aluminum plate, but a real heavy armor. It is designed for the main armor layer on the front to resist the powerful main guns of enemy ships in space combat. Even if the armor on the side is weaker, it is not the same for these conventional weapons easily penetrated. Therefore, 4 minutes later, although the right side of the Yuncheng towards the enemy ship was severely damaged, and some parts were even pierced, it still did not affect the safety of the entire ship. As long as the Yuncheng can complete the restart, it will be able to turn defeat into victory in an instant, because this time the flying saucer's attack seemed to suppress the Yuncheng, but in fact, it also completely exposed their own strength and confidence. Judging from the current situation, they are no better than us. Our main guns have not only penetrated their armor, but should have messed up the inside of the flying saucer. Its main guns should no longer be activated. Other top-level weapons either do not exist at all, or their systems are damaged and cannot be used. Li Yilin analyzed. Otherwise, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they were capable of blowing us up in one go, they would definitely have done it long ago. There is no need to wait now. Use this method to confront us. Su Ran nodded. At this time, the restart progress of the Yuncheng took another big step forward, reaching 50%. And part of the fire control system resumed control. Su Ran immediately issued an order to turn the muzzle and start to fight back. However, what can be used at this time are only some conventional weapons, which are in the same state as that flying saucer. The system and related subsystems of the main gun of the Yuncheng are extremely large and complicated, and it will not be possible to put it into use again in a short time. So, at this moment, from the Yuncheng, there began to be rays of light, flying out like meteors passing by in space. The flying saucer that fell into the distance. At this time, the flying saucer finally moved slowly, while avoiding the attack of Su Ran's Yuncheng, which had been reduced to a fixed fort. It continued to fight back, and at this moment, a piercing alarm sounded in the battleship. The holographic screen below Su Ran showed that in the direction of the enemy ship, a large number of small aircraft were being launched, approaching the Xiangayan city at high speed. Judging from the zoomed-in picture, it is a large number of flying saucers, each with a diameter of about 25 meters. The discs of the flying saucers are spinning rapidly, passing through the space between the Yuncheng and the enemy ship at high speed. Divide up, middle, down, left, and right to attack and kill the Yuncheng in 6 directions. Su Ran's face changed slightly, and he immediately gave an order to deal with it in space. The vast three-dimensional sense of this kind of war is more obvious, but fortunately, The battle here is not really a macro-scale war, however. There are too many of these flying saucers. The radar scanned twice, and at least 120 flying saucers were found from 6 directions, with a huge distance between each other, killing towards the Yunchang at high speed. Under such circumstances, the Yunchang's shipboard defensive weapons seemed stretched, especially the turrets on the battleship have not been fully recovered. Only some of the turrets can be used. Facing these flying saucers flying at high speed from a distance, the turrets will inevitably lose sight of the other. The flying saucer on one side will take an unknown amount of time, and because of this, these flying saucers quickly approached. Sitting on the bridge, he could even see the faint silhouette of the flying saucer through the holographic screen. In such a starry sky battlefield, this is already an incredibly close range. Su-Ran glanced at the restart progress, and it had reached 69%. He took a breath, and said directly, "Launch drones and carrier-based fighter jets, 20 Wind Falcon attack planes and 70 combat drones were launched, and they formed a formation around the Yuncheng, with flames from the muzzles, all the way to meet the densely flying saucers in the battle just now. More than half of these flying saucers were lost, and less than 60 of them came to the Yuncheng. In terms of numbers, the fighters on the Yuncheng's side had an overwhelming advantage. However, it is the opponent's flying saucer that has really achieved crushing results. Whether it is a Wind Falcon attack aircraft or a drone, they are all built before level 4. It is okay to deal with insect swarms on the Earth. In the space fighter duel, the judgment will be judged, no matter in terms of performance or firepower. Su-Ran's fighters are far below those flying saucers. Those whizzing flying saucers could even stare at a drone's 30mm caliber live ammunition artillery and smash it into pieces, but they were unscathed. A large number of flying saucers smashed through all the way, rushing towards the position of Yunchang at high speed in the bridge. Many people changed their colors when they saw this. Li Yilan even said in a deep voice, "I'm afraid they want to land and fight, and want to disintegrate us from the inside." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 71. We Surrender. A crew member was terrified and said, "Are they crazy? What good is boarding a ship for them? Isn't this tactic too primitive? The benefits are great." Li Yilan said, "They chose to stop and fight us. They must have known that they could not escape, and therefore, even though we were hit by an electromagnetic pulse torpedo, we are anxiously restarting the battleship, but they will only be more anxious than us, because as long as we recover to 80%, the main guns can be used, and their warships can be blown up with one shot. Therefore, watching us recover a little bit, can they not be in a hurry? Is it? We can only forcibly board the ship to prevent the restart of the Yuncheng." At this time, Su-Ran was also staring at the huge flying saucer warship in the sky with cold eyes. Li Yilan said, "Of course he can think of it. The severity of the damage to the flying saucer was worse than what I expected, but because of this, the other party was ready to put all their eggs in one basket." Seeing the small flying saucer fighters approaching, Su-Ran cursed inwardly. To be honest, he really didn't expect such a scene to appear in space. The two main battleships pecked at each other, and fighter jets flew back and forth, fighting back and forth. Whether it is a Wind Falcon attack aircraft or an unmanned fighter jet, they are all items that are suitable for the Earth. Under the 3rd level manufacturing list and under the system's 4th level manufacturing list, there are indeed related space fighters that can be manufactured. Its specifications are similar to conventional fighters. Of course, the actual weapons carried are not many, but the cost of one is as high as 1,200 resource points, even exceeding the price of destroyers. That is because space fighters need to be equipped with more necessary equipment for space combat and survival, and in this way, its cost performance is very low, very tasteless. On the Earth battlefield, it is inferior to cheaper destroyers in all aspects, and on the space battlefield. Do you think space wars are Star Wars? The battleships don't move, relying on fighter jets to fight each other? Or like the Avengers, everyone drives a high-tech battleship and jumps to the ground to fight shirtless? This is of course impossible. For all these reasons, Su-Ran, who has always been very compact in resource points, did not build even a single space fighter, and the Wind Falcon attack aircraft loaded on the Yuncheng was prepared for any danger. In case he was defeated and fled to other planets, after landing, and can also use Wind Falcon attack aircraft and drones for ground exploration and search. However, Su-Ran really didn't expect that the first time he drove a warship into space and participated in the first Star Wars, it would end up in this situation, and he also experienced the embarrassment of not having a space fighter. Of course, the current situation is nothing like Star Wars at all at this moment. The hull of the Yuncheng was shaking violently, and those flying saucers were entering the battleship through the gap on the right side of the Yuncheng. The automatic artillery inside the Yuncheng fired wildly, killing those who broke into the battleship. Alien flying saucer Su-Ran calmed down, and immediately issued a series of orders: activate the land killer, organize an attack team, cooperate with the internal fire system of the Yuncheng, and strangle these flying saucers. At this moment, the tail position of the Yuncheng and the rear position on the right side are turning into a hell of flames. On the rear main apron, 2 flying saucers rushed in from the damaged armored vehicle, and the directed energy cannons fired wildly, strafing the ground. The 6 automatic cannons located on the tarmac also hit the firepower, spitting out a roar of death. After a while, after the 3 automatic cannons were turned into burning fireballs, the 2 flying saucers were finally blown up, braving the rolling fire. Thick smoke fell on the ground of the ruins, and twisted and inhuman monsters crawled out of the flames. At this moment, the hatches on both sides of the apron suddenly opened, and 2 groups of 12 fully armed battleship marines rushed out. The killer came striding forward, and they all opened fire, shooting the twisted alien creature into a sea of flames. The same scene is happening in every corner of the Yuncheng. The flying saucers were intercepted by the emergency team, and a large number of Marines were killed by the flying saucers in an instant. In the outer channel of the main gun energy module, a flying saucer is tearing through the corridor of the battleship along the way, and the target is the energy control room of the main gun. However, outside the 6-centimeter thick iron door of the energy control room, there was already a steel direction waiting. 2 land killers blocked the entire corridor, and behind their huge steel bodies, the awakened team headed by Li Rui was covered in dark energy armor, and their cold masks coldly refracted light. With a cold cry from Li Rui, they opened fire in full force. At the same moment, the battle inside the Yuncheng could even be felt from the bridge of the battleship. The alarms in various areas inside the Yuncheng have not been interrupted since the very beginning. However, although the members of the Battleship Marine Corps paid a heavy price, they successfully defended the most important areas such as the main guns and engines inside the battleship, and even more protected them the bridge. At this moment, the restart progress of the battleship has reached 90%. In space, the Yuncheng is slowly turning, the main gun is being recharged, and it is pointing at the enemy ship's flying saucer in the far sky. But at this time, an urgent communication was sent from the direction of the enemy ship that is human language. Su-Ran was not surprised by this. The flying saucer had been wandering around the Earth for a long time, and was regarded as an ancestor by the Dongying people. Of course, it was impossible not to understand human language. To his surprise, this turned out to be a message of surrender. Please don't fire. We have surrendered, we are human beings, we are on the same front as you, please do not open fire, we have surrendered. At this moment, as if to show the sincerity of surrender, the rampaging flying saucers inside the Yuncheng stopped, and the huge flying saucer warship in the distance turned off and stopped. It seems that he is really about to surrender. A black line appeared on Su-Ran's forehead. Do aliens immediately surrender if they cannot be defeated? The other party said that they are also human beings. Whether it is true or not, there must be a way to fool Su-Ran into believing him, and it will be very real. Otherwise the Dongying people are not fools, and they cannot be easily fooled. However, Su-Ran had already seen that kind of distorted, unknown creature from the screen sent back. Of course, he would not believe it. It was the opponent's weapon and technology that made his heart move. Su-Ran has seen the power of the so-called city annihilation cannon. It is comparable to the main cannon of the Yuncheng. If it can be done, moreover, in case the other party has any other new things, if you shoot it yourself, you will have nothing. Chapter 72 Balance. Your Excellency Commander, the main battery has been charged and ready to fire at any time. The executive officer of the main gun of Yuncheng reported the situation of the main gun to Su-Ran immediately, as if he was on standby and ready to fire at any time. Su-Ran did not give a positive answer for a long time. He stared at the flying saucer in the distant sky, and was surprisingly silent for a long time. The surrender letter from the enemy ship was in the center of the holographic screen in front of Su-Ran. It was written in conventional electronic format, and the Chinese was verbatim, as if it was typed out by a human computer. Benefits and risks are roaring in Su-Ran's heart like a devil, making Su-Ran who has always been quick to make decisions, waver. The benefits are visible. The flying saucer itself is a major benefit. I captured the opponent's so-called city destroyer cannon, and it can be put into use after a little repair, even if other warships can't afford the main guns of this level for the time being energy, but it is also possible to place it on the ground as a cannon sitting on the ground. Not only that, those flying saucers and their technology that have stopped firing are also very considerable benefits. As for the other parts of the flying saucer, it may be possible to renovate and put it into use. Even if it is useless, it can also recycle resource points or simply sell it to Huaxia, sending a huge favor, and in this way, Su Ran could have a large number of resource points left and obtain a batch of powerful weapons and equipment to quickly replenish the firepower of his fleet. What made Su Ran hesitate the most was actually the risk. The risks are unknown. Su Ran didn't know what was on that ship, and what was the creature that was driving that ship. It was not easy to make the Dongying people fascinated by it, or even kowtow to recognize their ancestors, or they had some kind of the identities that the Japanese people can fully believe in, or they also have some control abilities similar to spore life, so that the Japanese people have to believe it if they don't believe it, and no matter what kind of possibility it is risky for oneself. Contact with any unknown extraterrestrial creature means taking unimaginably huge risks. What's more, what Su Ran is not sure is, does the other party have other plans for surrendering at this moment, and can turn around and join his army at any time? From the point of view of not firing a cannon, after a big fight and finally won, who would like to see their trophies blown up in one go? Just like the previous battle of the Sky Brood, Su Ran won with all his strength, but the Sky Brood was burnt down, and he lost a lot. In the end, he only got the corpses of those war worms. Su Ran's heart wavered, but gradually, he was more inclined to fire. Looking at it now, accepting the surrender is very profitable, and it can even bring his fleet to a higher level in a short period of time, especially when Su Ran just spent all the resource points and is now stretched and the fleet's progress is stagnant. But, even if this flying saucer is not captured, there is a system, and more powerful weapons are created. It is only a matter of time. Starting from this point, the answer becomes clear. I would rather wait and take risks. Unknown risks could well destroy the entire fleet. Just at this moment, Yuan Lichen, who hadn't spoken much, suddenly said, "Your Excellency Commander, I suggest to fire immediately. We will never have any future troubles." Of course Yuan Lichen guessed what Su Ran was hesitating about, so he weighed his words and said such a sentence. But these words, the attitude is very clear. Open fire. Su Ran turned to look at him. Yuan Lichen's words made the balance in his heart tilt quickly, and he really made a decision. Su Ran personally confirmed the firing operation. The flash tore through space. This blow was fired from the central main gun of the Yuncheng, and the galloping particle beam flew across the space at high speed. Here, there is no attenuation of the atmospheric environment, even if the distance between the Yuncheng and the enemy ship is even at this moment exceeding the previous distance between Xinjiang and Kyushu Island on the Earth. The loss of the particle beam is almost zero. As if in the blink of an eye, the flash of light surging in space hit the flying saucer head-on, piercing it brilliantly on the spot without a blocking of the shield system. The flying saucer, which had already been scarred, could not withstand this blow. From the bridge of the Yuncheng, the flying saucer seemed to be pierced by a spear of light, and then, it looked like a piece of like the broken tiles in the center. They were fragmented in the bursts of white light, and finally turned into a grand firework at the far end of space, reflecting the blood-red inside of the bridge like the setting sun. Su Ran took a deep breath and glanced at Yuan Lichen. Yuan Lichen smiled and sat back in his seat. Su Ran also smiled slightly. Li Yilin, as the adjutant of the Yuncheng, had already issued a series of orders on her behalf without him giving clear instructions, allowing the combat personnel inside the Yuncheng to quickly control the undestroyed alien flying saucers in the battleship and control them. The alien creature in the flying saucer then dispatched logistics personnel to cooperate with a maintenance robot to carry out emergency repairs at key locations, and where some fire extinguishing systems failed, emergency fires were extinguished manually. That's what the team is all about. Humans will always make mistakes and hesitate. Su Ran is not a god. He can't do everything, and there are times when he hesitates and cannot make a clear judgment. At this time, he needs help from others, even suggestions and reminders. Yuan Lichen's words were not suggestions, but affirmations. He realized what Su Ran was struggling with and what he was hesitating about, so he immediately spoke out, affirming Su Ran's thoughts, and also agreeing with what seemed to be the right idea. Help Su Ran make a decision faster without wasting any more time. Su Ran took his seat again, handed over the repair and maintenance of the battleship to Li Yilin, and gave the order to move forward. The Cloud City started to move again, approaching the destroyed position of the flying saucer. At this time, it has been blown into a pile of space junk. Under the impact of the explosion, whether it is large pieces of wreckage or small pieces of warship fragments, they are flying in space according to inertia. However, due to the gravitational force of the Earth and the Moon, they will all be pulled back to the direction of the Earth and the Moon. In the end, the huge Yuncheng was smashing into a piece of debris the size of a two-story building. The shield flickered slightly, and the huge piece of debris was cut apart like duckweed on the sea and in space. There are still many things like space capsules floating, which are obviously escape capsules in flying saucers. Those escape capsules even have a power system, ejecting airflow, and seem to want to fly back to the Earth. Of course, Su Ran would not let the tiger go back to the mountain. It is his consistent style to kill if he wants to, so he immediately issued an order to destroy these escape pods. Chapter 73. I want a picture of the moon. The short-range guns of the Cloud City were firing fiercely, destroying the escape pods one by one in space. What's funny is that there is actually one of those alien escape pods, which has a huge projection effect in space, which is a white flag fluttering in the wind, but this escape pod is quickly destroyed by a roaring shell. When it was pierced directly, the white flag flickered for a moment, and then disappeared. It seems that only death and fire are the constant colors of this starry sky. Su Ran's eyes were heavy, and she could even raise a white flag. As expected, the penetration was quite deep, so she should beat them to death in one go. A fleet operator watched this scene and couldn't help but read a sentence. I seem to feel that they are dying and struggling to survive, as if they are screaming and shouting, "Don't kill me, don't kill me." Another crew member beside him gave him a squinting look, and said, "Stop talking nonsense, quickly check the airspace situation. Killing them is the most important thing." Although many people have a cruel feeling of massacre at this time, everyone also knows that the other party is not our race. If they are defeated by Yuncheng now, then these flying saucers will never be ambiguous, and they must be killed. All killed in space and in this kind of space environment, even if those escape pods escape the explosion of the flying saucer, they have nowhere to escape, let alone hide. They can only wait to be picked out one by the battleship and shot in space. Su Ran is not afraid of trouble, and is even more willing to waste fuel, ammunition and even time here, just to wipe them out. At the same time, Su Ran tried to collect resources. After all, there were so many flying saucer wrecks, but failed. Whether it is the distance, angle, or spatial position, it has exceeded the recovery limit of his watch, so it seems impossible to recover the wreckage of the flying saucer. Su Ran felt a little regretful. But she didn't have too many thoughts. This is normal. His wristwatch is similar to some kind of space transmission device. It has extremely high technology, but limited by its size. Its room for improvement is actually very small, and the technology involved is extremely incredible. Therefore, it is impossible to take away a piece of starry sky by raising your hand without any restrictions, at least not at this stage. With the warships reaching the 4th level, Su Ran is also learning various knowledge and materials through the system while building various black tech weapons and warships. Even in the fleet headquarters in Xinjiang, the Fleet Scientific Research Department he opened has already a preliminary scale is up. But after all, the Earth is in chaos. Now is not the time to really start scientific research. Su Ran's own study time is also very limited. Even so, he has begun to think about the technology and power behind the system and the watch. The wristwatch is likely to lead to an alien space, and the manufacturing channel of the system is also in a certain alien space. This system itself achieves a fully automated explosion mode, which is even far more than the simple explosion mode. It involves technology is not only far superior to humans on the Earth, but also above the swarms. If the collective biological spore life that claims to be the pinnacle of the biological field is compared to technological civilization, it is even far behind the system and wristwatches. Technology, perhaps only the coward who hides in the Earth and half steps into the 4-dimensional field can stand shoulder to shoulder with it. Therefore, although Su Ran sometimes complained in his heart that the wristwatch was not so useful, he knew that it was already impossible for others to have it, and it was something he could not change for the time being. Scolding is scolding. This does not delay my daily use. Su Ran's mentality has always been very stable. The Yuncheng swept across the sky before turning slowly, leaving behind the wreckage flying all over the sky, and heading towards the Earth. The flying saucer has been completely disintegrated, and it is useless to the Yuncheng. However, several of the flying saucer fighter planes that invaded the Yuncheng were directly captured by Su Ran, and may be of great use in the future. Earth is looking far away. Su-Ran sat on the bridge, staring at the huge planet in the distance. This was the first time he gazed at his hometown after the end of the world broke out. Unlike the bird's eye view of the Earth before the end of the world, the planet is no longer blue at this time, but rather gray and charred. That's because the flames of war are burning in every corner of this planet. As it got closer, Su-Ran suddenly remembered something and raised his head to look in the direction of the moon. However, at this time, as he approached the Earth, he was stuck on the edge of the two planets, and he couldn't see the whole picture of the moon at all. From such a distance, it is almost impossible to see anything. Take me 2 pictures of the moon. Su-Ran gave the order. The crew in charge of the voyage record at the back showed a look of embarrassment. Here, you can only see less than 1/10 of the area, the field of vision is limited, and you can't take a panoramic view. Commander, Li Yilin froze for a moment, and said, should we change course? I suggest not. Returning to Earth immediately and joining our fleet is the top priority, Su-Ran said angrily. I mean, what kind of pictures can be taken? Save them in the database first, and I will look at them when I look back. Our course has not changed. At this distance, the communication has been restored. How is it going? The flying saucer warship of the enemy ship destroyed some of our communication equipment. However, the communication can be restored now, and the interference on the ground has disappeared. We are connecting. Su-Ran frowned and asked in confusion, why is such an important place like our communication equipment destroyed? Because we have sent a large number of people to protect the main gun, energy control room, power room, ammunition depot, apron, and warehouse. Li Yilin reported in detail, treating the adjutant like a secretary. Wait. Su-Ran glared at Li Yilin, and said, why do we protect the apron? As far as I know, most of the fighters on the apron in our ship have already been launched and destroyed. Li Yilin thought for a while, and said, because its position is close to the thruster, and we are fighting alone. I think that once we are defeated, with the armed force of that flying saucer, our fleet on Earth will also be defeated. Can't give us any practical help, we can only wait for death. So, I think, even if we have a communication device, not only will we have no chance to ask for help, but also no object to ask for help, so I list it as a secondary protection object. Hearing this, Su-Ran's expression froze completely. He found that he couldn't find any reason to refute. Chapter 74. At this moment, Li Yilin was holding the tablet computer and looking at Su-Ran with a serious expression on her face. Su-Ran opened her mouth and was stunned for a while before sitting down. At this time, even Yuan Lichen laughed dryly and said, then what's the use of communication equipment? If you kill the madness with the wind, you lose it with the wind. The bridge was quiet, and no one dared to answer the sentence. Li Yilin glanced at him, and returned to her position, ready to deal with the situation on the ground. The Yunchang was seriously damaged. Although the shield system modules were not directly destroyed, its internal electronic components were burnt out first, and they are still being repaired. Therefore, during the process of entering the atmosphere, the Yunchang like a fireball, the outer layer was blazing from the ground. The scene looked like falling. It took a lot of time to penetrate the atmosphere. When the Yunchang landed on the battlefield off Kyushu Island, the battle here was almost over. The outer layer of the black hull of the Yunchang was a little red, billowing and rising neatly, and this huge battleship was like being in the clouds, and its shadow was looming over the Pacific, above the last bug swarm. At this time, Qiao Xiangjin's fleet, together with Fu Gallo, who was controlled by the Spore Life, and Lin Yuanduang's second fleet surrounded the last batch of migratory locusts, and was shrinking the blockade line little by little. Those migratory locusts were flying around and rampaging, but they couldn't find any way out. One by one, they were all shot to death in the sky, falling like raindrops, and falling into the raging sea. In the blink of an eye, they were swallowed up by the waves, into the depths of the seabed, disappeared. Seeing the Yunchang come down like this, Qiao Xiangjin was also taken aback. This was the first time he had really seen the Yunchang, but he didn't expect it to be in such a state where there was thick smoke and even open flames. Thinking that it was Su-Ran and the others fighting to the death with that flying saucer, and seeing that it was about to fail, Qiao Xiangjin almost lost his mind in anxiety, so he immediately issued an order to send a destroyer to divert water to support the Yunchang. For this reason, a gap appeared in their encirclement circle, and many migratory locusts escaped from here. And Su-Ran? Well, Su-Ran, he just stopped the Yunchang in midair, looking at the series of alarm prompts displayed on the holographic console in front of him with anxiety. His head was buzzing, and he quickly turned off the alarm prompts first, intending to let's deal with the internal situation of the Yunchang first. After all, before entering the atmosphere, although Su Ran only told Qiao Xiangjun that they had destroyed the alien flying saucer, he himself had already obtained the general situation of the ground battlefield from Qiao Xiangjun. Knowing that they have won the battle, Su Ran is not so anxious. However, just now, Su Ran raised his head and saw Destroyer, using a tractor beam tower, dragging a jet of water, pouring it all over the Yunchang. At this moment, the outer armor of the Yunchang is still red and hot. When the water column poured on it, it sizzled instantly, and more water mist rose up, almost engulfing the Yunchang, like a cloud in the sky. Like the islands looming in the sky in less than 10 seconds, Qiao Xiangjun received a roar from Su Ran. "Old Qiao! What are you doing?" Qiao Xiangjun also reacted at this time. He made a stupid decision. He was a little embarrassed, but his mouth was always hard. With a cold face, he said expressionlessly, "Mine." The corners of Su Ran's mouth twitched. "What about Maya Okyu and the others? They made an emergency landing in Dongying. The situation over there is unknown, and when the locust swarm is collected, a destroyer ship will be sent immediately." Qiao Xiangjun was slightly surprised and said, "I'm still in command of the fleet." Su Ran smiled, and answered as a matter of course, "Then what do you think? You have come to the battlefield, I should hand over the command." Su Ran said, "No. You are still the commander in this war. You and Lao Lin will lead 2 fleets respectively." Hearing these words, Qiao Xiangjun was taken aback, because he was keenly aware of what now the alien flying saucer has been destroyed. A core hive of the Zerg has been blown up in the Pacific Ocean. The Skywatcher attack group and the Zerg troops outside Kyushu Island have been almost completely destroyed. Sweeping everything away, the war should have been over, but Su Ran said that he was still the commander in this war, which meant that Qiao Xiangjun was really shocked as he said that. The communication on Lin Yuandong's side was also connected, and a slightly blurred picture of Lin Yuandong appeared in front of Su Ran. "Your Excellency, Commander, we fulfilled our mission and successfully intercepted and destroyed a core mother of the swarm nest. The flames are still alive." Su Ran nodded at him. Of course he noticed that the bomber was missing, and he had already confirmed who died in the battle through Li Yilin, but Su Ran didn't say much, just nodded slightly, and said deeply, "Thanks for your hard work." Lin Yuandong smiled and said, "What are the instructions for the next step? Do I need to hand over the commanding authority?" "Report the damage of your ship." Lin Yuandong said, "The shield of the main ship of my frigate has been offline, and the repair progress is about 60% at present. It is estimated that it will take more than 10 minutes to complete the repair. The main ship is damaged by 30%. Fortunately, the important units no damage, but the bomber, we lost 1 bomber, another badly damaged, 50% damaged, 80% of the ammunition dropped. But it's still sailing very good. The mission of the bomber has been completed. Let that bomber also retreat to Dongpu and join Tongmaya Okyu, and you will be merged into our ship." Su Ran said, "Now immediately kill the locusts nearby and clear the battlefield." "Old Joe, how many combat-ready aircraft do you have on board?" Qiao Xiangjun replied precisely, "There are also 7 Nightingale aircraft, 5 Wind Falcon attack aircraft, and a group of 20 attack drones." Su Ran nodded, and said, "Send them all, let them escort the bombing, and go to Dongpu together. The situation in Dongpu is uncertain, and there may be the influence of alien forces. I am not at ease." Qiao Xiangjun nodded in agreement, and immediately gave the order. After pondering for a while, Qiao Xiangjun finally couldn't help it, and asked, "Su Ran, do we still want to fight?" Hearing these words, Lin Yuandong was also slightly taken aback. "What, still want to fight? Is this battle not over yet?" From the military point of view, Lin Yuandong was not as sharp as Qiao Xiangjun. An orthodox soldier. Su Ran took a deep breath, and turned her gaze to the depths of the distant Pacific Ocean. "That's right, don't forget, in this battle, my original target was the swarm brood in the Pacific Ocean, the real brood." Chapter 75 The Arrow of the Open Bow. As soon as these words came out, everyone was taken aback. Everyone knows what the real brood Su Ran is talking about. It is the core central brood located in the center of the Pacific Ocean that controls the global battle bugs and bug nest nodes. That's the real brain of the swarm. If it can be destroyed, then the command system of the swarm on the Earth will be completely disintegrated. Lin Yuandong opened his mouth, feeling that Su Ran's plan was too bold in this case. "Do you still want to raid other people's nests?" He couldn't help but glance at their fleet. Although it wasn't too badly damaged, it had been fighting for a long time and was full of scars. But Qiao Xiangjun immediately reacted. Your original plan was the central brood nest in the Pacific Ocean. The real plan? Lin Yuandong felt that he couldn't keep up with the rhythm, and Qiao Xiangjun said, I see. Your original plan was to join forces with the swarm and pretend to attack the flying saucer under Kyushu Island. It doesn't matter whether you take the flying saucer or not. The important thing is that we plan to use this as a springboard, relying on our hidden Yunchang and the Second Fleet to attack and eliminate the brood in the Pacific Ocean in one go. Lin Yuandong also reacted belatedly, and said, then why didn't you mention this plan in advance? I understand. Su Ran also smiled. What Lin Yuandong and Qiao Xiangjun guessed was exactly his original plan. With the Yunchang and the Second Fleet, he would have the possibility and opportunity to behead him. He would go all the way from Kyushu Island and destroy the brood. In his original plan, the flying saucer under Kyushu Island would be destroyed. It is a key, but not a key part. The key point is that he hopes to use this as a springboard to distract the bug swarm and pave the way for his attack plan. The point is not that, according to the data shown by the whole plan, this flying saucer does not seem to have the ability to fly. The ability to fight and fight has almost zero impact on the battle situation. Even with powerful equipment, how much threat can a fixed fort be? However, it was because of this miscalculation that Su Ran's plan changed completely. His Yunchang and the Second Fleet were forced out ahead of schedule, and a life and death battle started before the curtain came to an end. However, it's normal for the plan to change. Although Su Ran is a little annoyed, it's impossible for someone to keep beating you all the time, and it's not like beating a human machine. The changes on the battlefield are inherently treacherous, and no one knows what will happen. Changes happen all the time, and countermeasures are always changing in an emergency, which is the norm. The reason why Su Ran didn't tell everyone about his plan in advance was because he was wary of spore life. Now Su Ran doesn't know exactly how the spore life controlled Fu Jialuo. He only inferred from the various performances of the spore life in those few months that the other party decided to make a difference, so he sent the invitation before the battle. He got the approval of the spore life, but Su Ran didn't dare to trust them absolutely. Just as the spore life has not figured out the details of Su Ran now, Su Ran has not figured out the details of the spore life, so he has to be more cautious about these pervasive spore life. But at this moment, Su Ran nodded. Agreeing with Lin Yuandong and Qiao Xiangjun's guess, the astonishment on Lin Yuandong's face still did not recede. He asked, what about our joint plan? We won't attack the brood together with other countries, with a Cloud City. There is no need. Qiao Xiangjun answered for Su Ran. Also, how long has our joint plan been spread through Huaxia? How many countries are responding now? Even if they respond, they all have their own ghosts. Moreover, even if it is a big naval power, many sea forces have been destroyed by the swarm. Without a sea platform, it is too difficult for them to attack the central mother nest in the center of the Pacific Ocean. There is too little help for us, and it is easy to expose our intentions. Rather than letting them hold us back, we should do it ourselves. Lin Yuandong was a little confused and said, so, it's because of our battleship near 13 cough. Su Ran coughed dryly, and suddenly wanted to know how the logic in Lin Yuandong's mind was deduced at this moment, and finally came to such a conclusion. However, he didn't ask so many questions. Instead, he took advantage of this gap and spent all his remaining resource points to make some basic parts with a short production time for backup. Qiao Xiangjun didn't think too much about it. Although everyone is in the same fleet, they have different responsibilities and different affiliations. The relationship between him and Lin Yuandong is just an ordinary relationship, not that close, and Qiao Xiangjun doesn't like Lin Yuandong very much. At this time, he shook his head solemnly. No. It is precisely because I am not so awesome, so I agree to attack the central hive in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and take this opportunity to take out their brains in one fell swoop. Without giving Lin Yuandong and Su Ran a chance to speak, Qiao Xiangjun expressed his opinions and suggestions. We defeated them head-on, but the insect nest has not moved for the time being. It seems to be shrinking, but it will only be brewing. Big thunder, but they are also worried that we will go straight to Huanglong. This time the peace agreement is torn up, and there will be no possibility of peace talks. Therefore, even if our fleet returns to Xinjiang today, it will only give the bugs a chance. On a global scale, if the swarm really mobilizes a large enough legion, before our fleet recuperates and restores its integrity, the sea of swarms will engulf us. At that time, we will have no chance to develop and rest opportunity. We can only leave the earth and flee to the starry sky. Su Ran nodded. The reason why he decided to forcibly attack the mother nest of the Pacific Central at this moment is also the same. Today, the Yunchang and the Lin Yuandong Second Fleet are unveiled, and there is no room for change between the two. I understand, the longer Su Ran is given, the faster he will improve. In fact, from this time, it can be seen that the reason why the swarm wanted to join forces with the alien flying saucer to kill Su Ran was because of absolute distrust and a sense of crisis. They also don't believe so much in the agreement that Su Ran will leave the Earth at the end of the year, and hope to wipe Su Ran off the Earth once and for all under such circumstances. Although the worm nest looks like a tortoise now, Su Ran is sure that he will take the fleet back to Xinjiang for repairs. Tomorrow or even today. The army of the worm nest will flood the entire northeast region and the fleet. Confined to one place, he became a turtle in an urn, unable to fight, and could only flee to the starry sky. Therefore, since all the whole cards on his side are exposed, Su Ran will not keep his hand anymore. Whether he succeeds or loses, it all depends on today's battle. Chapter 76 Captain Tong is unhappy. November 6. The sky on the front line of Kyushu Island is still crimson, but this area is ushering in an unprecedented moment of tranquility. The battle had just ended, and a large number of insect swarms gathered to encircle and suppress the fleet were completely defeated. They paid a very heavy price, and countless war insects were swallowed by the raging sea, becoming corpses floating in the sea. According to this, 300 nautical miles away, the mother nest of the bombed offshore platform has been completely disintegrated and swallowed by the waves. Only sporadic flames float on the sea surface like ghosts, and will soon be pulled into it by this boundless sea. The darkest depths of the sea, but other than that, no bugs dared to enter this area. This battle started quickly and ended even faster. The game, surprise attack, battle, and victory between the two sides were all over in less than half an hour. With the ability of the swarm to deal with it, it will never be due to lack of reaction. Instead of putting troops on the battlefield, they began to adopt tactics of retreating. The swarm is rarely showing weakness, and at the rear of Kyushu Island, on a panicked red land, Lee Huxun left a mandala, took 2 quick steps, and followed Tong Myaokyu in front of him. Noticing that the other party was looking into the sky, he couldn't help saying, "The swarm is probably also shot." Senseless Tong Myaokyu said nothing. Lee Huxun said, "The news that the communication nodes we sent out just now returned one by one said that the bombers of Lin Yuandong's Second Fleet will join us in the future, and a group of fighter jets will escort us. However, our mandala, the number needs to be repaired urgently. Even the thermostat has a problem, and now the inside is as hot as a steam oven." Tong Myaokyu walked forward with big strides, and replied without looking back, "I know." The chattering Lee Huxun was stunned for a moment, and raised his head to look at Tong Myaokyu in front of him. He realized at this moment that Tong Myaokyu's clothes were almost soaked, and they were tightly attached to her body, outlining a perfect body curve. Come on, even her hair was wet with sweat, and strands of it stuck to her smooth forehead. Lee Huxun quickly said again, "I said, Captain, you are soaked through. This is not acceptable. The inside of the battleship is hot, and now it is cold outside. You will catch a cold like this." Tong Myaokyu finally stood still. Captain Tong turned his head and looked at Lee Huxun coldly, but waved to the direction behind him, as if he was signaling to someone. Just when Lee Huxun was a little confused, he heard Tong Myaokyu's cold voice, "You are my adjutant, not my mother. Our battleship has been grounded. There is too much time to deal with. Don't waste time with me. Find a way to cool down the battleship, and Hoshino Junksha, they are now where? Find someone to control them. Don't stand here stupidly." Oh, I see. Lee Huxun is not the kind of real mother-in-law. At this time, when Tong Myaokyu reminded him, he also reacted. The Tuolua went, took 2 steps, but he stopped again, turned his head and looked at Captain Tong. "I think you should wear 2 more. Why did you draw your gun?" Tong Myaokyu was indeed drawing out his gun, pulling out the automatic pistol from his waist, but at this time, there was a ran from behind Lee Huxun. "Didn't you see that Captain Tong is not interested in you? Stop being courteous here, and go get down to business." Lee Huxun's face turned red. Turning his head, he saw Dong Yuanwu, the captain of the battleship Marines in full armor, coming from behind with a large number of soldiers. Tong Myaokyu was gesturing to them just now. Behind Dong Yuanwu and the others, on the battleship Mandala, a land killer crashed onto the ground. Accompanied by a loud rumbling noise and the sound of mechanical transmission, the land killer started to move quickly under the driver's control, followed Dong Yuanwu and the others to move forward behind the Marine Corps. A large number of medical personnel are helping the wounded, The logistics and maintenance troops are urgently repairing the battleship, and other crew members are also helping to remove all kinds of dangerous goods from the overheated battleship. Move it down. Li Huxun and Dong Yuanwu have a good personal relationship, so of course he wouldn't care about such a tease, but at this moment, he also understood that he couldn't stay here any longer, and said to Dong Yuanwu, "Okay, you just wait." After finding a sentence on his mouth, he immediately turned back to the direction of the mandala. As for Tong Myaokyu, as if she hadn't heard the ridicule before, she nodded at Dong Yuanwu expressionlessly, then turned around and strode forward loaded with guns and live ammunition, fully armed, as if facing an enemy, because before leaving the battleship, Tong Myaokyu had already confirmed that a large number of Dongying people were approaching the landing point of the mandala. Although most of them were non-combatants, there were also combat troops. Although the communication system of the mandala was severely damaged, it was not completely paralyzed. If these Japanese combat units thought, at such a short distance, they must be able to get in touch with the mandala first, but now, the other party approached at high speed without even saying hello. As the captain, Tong Myaokyu had to consider that this batch of Japanese combat troops had other plans. After the Marines assembled, 2 land killers and more than 30 heavily armed soldiers, led by Tong Myaokyu, took up their formation at a position about 500 meters away from the huge battleship mandala. A group of convoys came billowing in smoke and dust. The Dongying people are indeed quite miserable. Their combat troops are all composed of military off-road vehicles and civilian vehicles. If it were not for an infantry fighting vehicle and a military command vehicle, they could easily be regarded as civilian troops armed with military equipment. However, such an armed force should be considered a good lineup in Dongpu, which has no army. After a long distance, Tong Myaokyu saw the flying Japanese national flag, and she ordered the land killer to fire. 2 land killer machine guns are warning to fire. Dong Yuanwu was taken aback. "Boss, our battleship is not working, and there are still a bunch of non-combatants. Although these Dongying people are equipped with rubbish, this is their territory. Fire." Tong Myaokyu put down the binoculars and said coldly, "Our fleet's diplomacy is like this." Dong Yuanwu swallowed, and immediately said, "Fire." At this time, one of his subordinates asked cautiously in a low voice, "How do I feel? Captain Tong is very unhappy today. Are you stupid? Who can be happy when the battleship is beaten like this?" Amidst the loud noise, the cannons of the 2 land killers fired instantly, forcing the rapidly approaching Japanese troops to stop in the middle of the road. Chapter 77. Who has the advantage? Large caliber bullets swept across the ground, stirring up billowing smoke waves. Accompanied by the sound of sudden brakes, the menacing Dongying convoy all stopped. Looking from a distance, there were more than 30 vehicles. Judging from the direction, they should have fled from Chenduchen. Moreover, they should have started fleeing before the battle or when the battle broke out. As Tong Myaokyu opened fire on one side, he yelled several words in Japanese on the other side. Tong Myaokyu turned her head and asked Dong Yuanwu beside her, "Can you understand me?" Dong Yuanwu shook his head blankly. "Didn't you have the simultaneous interpreter issued by the commander?" "I forgot to take it. It's still on the battleship. Do you want me to get it, eh?" Dong Yuanwu looked at Tong Myaokyu, who was obviously unhappy, and thought to himself, "Well, why are you so confident without your own belt?" But Dong Yuanwu probably understood why Tong Myaokyu was so unhappy, so he didn't speak rationally at this time. After a while, a little soldier eased the embarrassment and said, "I took a few free Japanese classes before the end of the world. They probably want us to surrender now." How? Hearing this, Tong Myaokyu immediately sneered. Dong Yuanwu immediately changed his color, and said, "These bastards of Dongying are really here to take advantage of the fire to loot. Don't they know that if it weren't for us, their Kyushu Island would have been sunk by others? 2 land killers, push me to the front, and grenade launchers, greet me directly." Tong Myaokyu directly gave the order in a cold voice. The 2 land killers went straight forward, and the grenade launchers sprayed out angry shells. Several grenades flew over, and the 2 military vehicles exploded in an instant. Dongying never expected that Tong Myaokyu would fight. As soon as he said it, Yoshikawa Yamato, the Japanese commander sitting in the command car, was buzzing. Yoshikawa Yamato came here chasing the damaged warship at this juncture. In fact, he came here to take advantage of the fire, and he was very confident that they had been observing the landed mandala while they were marching on the ground. This huge battleship was almost completely lost, and it was no longer capable of combat. On their side, there were more than 30 vehicles, more than 200 people, more than 200 guns, heavy machine guns, infantry, anti-tank missiles and other weapons. It has all kinds of applications, And it is definitely a very strong force in the current Kyushu Island. Originally, Yoshikawa Yamato planned to observe, but when Tongmaya Okyu appeared with two Mitra-like weapons that look very stupid and only 30 people, not even a car, Yoshikawa Yamato was convinced. This mandala is the lamb to be slaughtered. Yoshikawa Yamato is not stupid. Although his goal is the mandala, he never thought about driving away the battleship. He just planned to rob a batch of them before the other warships came. Remove a few advanced turrets, take them all away, and hide in Kyushu Island. It is impossible for the fleet to find them all over Kyushu for just a few turrets in this area. Therefore, the Dongying people did not intend to kill at all. After all, the nature of killing is different. If you snatch something away, people may not pay attention to you, but if you are killed by someone else, and then a few high-ranking officials are killed, then the situation will be different. Moreover, if someone kills someone, a conflict will definitely break out. Once this conflict breaks out, where's the kung fu robbery? The Dongying people had seen the situation on Tongmaya Okyu's side. In fact, he was already full of confidence. He felt that if he frightened him, the other party would definitely surrender in order to protect his personnel from losses. However, what this group of Dongying people never expected was that there were so many people on their side who had too many guns and firepower that they didn't fire, and the other side even fired first. Isn't this? Shouldn't he choose to surrender rationally because of the disparity in strength? Is the opposing commander crazy? Such thoughts flashed through Yoshikawa Yamato's mind, but seeing that he was being beaten, he couldn't help but fight back. So what happened? However, you still can't kill people. Huaksha's fleet is too powerful. If you can offend them, you can't offend them to death, otherwise you will be looking for your own death. Therefore, Yoshikawa Yamato immediately issued an order to his subordinates to destroy the two land killers. In his opinion, those things were just too bulky moving targets. It would be easy to destroy them, but they would definitely deal a heavy blow to the opponent's morale. Yoshikawa Yamato's plan is very good. Before that, he even thought of taking the turret he snatched from here to dominate Kyushu Island and become a prince. So now his idea is also wonderful. Set fire on my side, and put out those two bulky big robots, so that the other party can understand what the difference in numbers is. But unfortunately, today Tongmaya Okyu and her marines on the mandala told these Dongying people what is the gap in technology with a bloody reality. After a round of grenade bombardment by the two land killers, Tongmaya Okyu ordered them to turn off, and asked the soldier who spoke a little bit of Japanese to shout for the opponent to surrender. Yoshikawa Yamato, who was already preparing to counterattack, of course could not surrender, and responded directly with an anti-tank missile. The anti-tank missile came through the air, and one shot broke a leg of a land killer. The land killer collapsed with a buzz, and its movements were instantly restricted. Seeing this, Tongmaya Okyu was furious, and directly ordered full-scale fire. Then this group of Japanese people never fired a single anti-tank missile. The 20mm 6 rotation machine gun loaded by the land killer can shoot out 3,000 rounds of ammunition in 1 minute, and the two land killers can tilt 6,000 rounds of bullets in a minute. The firepower network has also been called Terror, and Dong Yuan directly asked someone to bring out the Silver Fury, and blasted the only armored vehicle in Dongying at the front with one shot. With a large number of energy weapons such as bolt guns, more than 30 people stunned 30 Dongying people. Several vehicles and hundreds of people were cornered. Moreover, energy weapons have strong penetrating power, which is more suitable for people with weak armor to shoot at each other. Ordinary civilian vehicles, even Japanese people hiding behind the vehicle, may also be shot and killed by energy weapons penetrating the vehicle. Under such circumstances, Japan has no way to fight back. Yoshikawa Yamato's command vehicle withdrew from the forefront of the Dongying people's battle formation to the rear in less than a minute. Only then did Yoshikawa Yamato realize that he had made a big mistake. They are energy weapons. They don't look like they have much ammunition, but they are actually a lot of energy. And the most important thing is that there seems to be a vehicle as a cover on my side, but in fact it can't stand it at all. There is no advantage in fighting against others in such an open area. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 78: We Surrender. After a while, Tongmaya Okyu, who was approaching with his own troops, heard the Dongying people shout "We surrender" 3 times in English, Chinese, and Dongying. At this time, the Dongying convoy, which was aggressively pulling away just now, was engulfed in flames. Many vehicles turned into blazing fireballs, and some were simply turned into hornets' nests, with corpses scattered everywhere. Yoshikawa Yamato overestimated the firepower on his side, and it was only at this time that he finally understood what the Chinese slang phrase "a skinny camel is bigger than a horse" really meant, and with the sound of surrender passing through, Tongmaya Okyu also stopped firing very rationally. Immediately afterwards, they saw several small white flags slowly rising from the far end of the messy and smoky battlefield, swaying in the wind. Looking at this scene, Dong Yuanwu couldn't help but say in shock, "This is really, the Japanese surrendered so fast." Tongmaya Okyu was much more silent, and she directly gave the order to let the other party go. The soldier, who was fluent in Japanese, was a little hesitant. "This, Captain Tong, are we going to be so fierce?" Tongmaya Okyu said nothing. "I asked you to say something else, would you say it?" Dong Yuanwu, who was standing next to him, quickly kicked his blind man, and said, "What are you waiting for? Do you think this is a charity gala? It's stupid." So, with the help of the land killer's loudspeaker equipment, the soldier yelled a crisp roll and still shouted in not so authentic Japanese. Other than that, nothing else. The sound of rolling, the obvious disdain, anyone can hear it. People clearly look down on them. Yoshikawa Yamato, who was hiding in the rear over there, heard the sound of rolling, and his face changed several times in an instant. Before the end of the world, he was also a figure in Japan, and he belonged to the kind of person who had a good relationship between the upper and lower sides. There is also a place for him in the guard, and after the end of the world, he is on the right team, pulling up a group of his own soldiers. Although he is not a big man who can really influence the current situation, he is still quite confident. Little warlord, however, today, not only did he lose his troops, but he also let him go with such disdain. The corners of Yoshikawa Yamato's eyes twitched violently, and his face looked a little cloudy. Obviously, he was annoyed in his heart, and felt that he had lost all face at this moment. One of his adjutants approached cautiously and said, in Dongying language, "Or else, let's go, we can't beat them." This sentence made Yoshikawa Yamato furious, and kicked the adjutant with a kick. Seeing this, another adjutant immediately said, in Dongying language, "These Chinese people are deceiving people too much. We should never retreat and let them laugh at us. Today we will fight them bloody to the end and let these Chinese people know, see the bones of our Dongying people." The adjutant was not able to finish his sentence, and he was kicked over by Yoshikawa Yamato once he finished half of his sentence. This time, the two adjutants stared blankly at Yoshikawa Yamato. After a long silence, Yoshikawa Yamato gritted his teeth and squeezed out a sentence, in Japanese, "We withdraw." Then, after yelling to get out, Tongmaya Okyu waited for about a minute, and then saw those embarrassing Dongying people running out in a hurry, found a few cars that could barely drive, and hid in that car from the beginning. The command vehicle at the back, led by them, ran away as if fleeing from a disaster, and the running speed was even faster than when they came. Tongmaya Okyu turned her head and walked back. How many people are on the other side? And although her firepower is strong, but the ammunition she carries is limited, if she really wants to fight to the death, casualties will inevitably occur. In Tongmaya Okyu's view, for a group of Dongying people, it is not worth even one casualty in his fleet. As for capturing the opponent, the current mandala obviously doesn't have enough manpower. Therefore, expulsion became Tongmaya Okyu's final decision. And when Tongmaya Okyu returned to the shadow cast by the mandala, he saw Lee Huxun dealing with various situations in an orderly manner. When Tongmaya Okyu came over, Lee Huxun said, "Two good news. First, the temperature inside the battleship has dropped, and it is still exhausting heat. It is estimated that we will be able to return to the battleship in 5 minutes. By then, the repair work can also be fully launched. Second, you turn around." Tongmaya Okyu turned her head and squinted her eyes to look into the sky. From her angle, she could see that on the top of the clouds, the huge tomahawk-shaped bomber protected by the Nightingale aircraft and the Wind Falcon attack aircraft had appeared in the field of vision and was approaching Hirha. Tongmaya Okyu exhaled slightly, and even felt that his pressure seemed to be reduced a lot. Where are Hoshino Junksha and the others? I'm worried that they are a time bomb. Hoshino Junksha is going to welcome another group of Dongying people. Tongmaya Okyu was slightly taken aback by Lee Huxun's answer, and the slightly parted red lips were a bit sultry. Lee Huxun was stunned for a moment, then came back to his senses, and said with a smile, "It's not what you thought. You just left, and a communication request came from our ship at 70 degrees. It's a group of non-governmental organizations in Japan, willing to help us, so Hoshino Junksha went to guide and communicate. I can see that they are extremely grateful for your previous decision, Captain. Those who came to help us also thought that we helped them win the war. and they are extremely grateful to us. There are 300 or 400 people in fact. When Tong Mayaokia was dealing with those dog-eating people who took advantage of the fire, he still regretted a little in his heart. Why did he help such a group of white-eyed wolves? But now her heart finally warmed slightly. Whether it's dog-eating people or Huaxia people, there are people who are mercenary everywhere, and there are people who know how to repay their kindness. However, Tong Mayaokia did not show this slight touch. She still put on an iceberg face and said, "Then you should be careful, in case there are some evil people hiding in it, especially people from the Holy Order. I will expel everyone who sees them, and Hoshino Junxia and the others, I will keep an eye on them." Dongying has been against us since ancient times. Li Huxun has been with Tong Mayaokia for so long, and has been her deputy. There is no slight change in Tong Mayaokia's heart. Okay, I understand. But first, we have to guide our friendly troops. Go. Tong Mayaokia nodded, and raised her head to look at the sky again, but what she saw this time was not the bomber slowly landing in the sky, but the fleet that had disappeared into the skyline farther away. Chapter 79 Encirclement Across Planets. Chapter 79, The Encirclement Across the Planets. 10 minutes ago in a trench in Toulouse, France, a hook-nosed officer emerged from his cover, stepping over corpses strewn all over the place, and stared at the sky in disbelief. At this moment, the locust swarms that had been attacking them continuously for 2 days and 2 nights suddenly withdrew at the last moment, just when they were about to completely crush the French defense line. They gathered in a line in the air and quickly disappeared into the sky. The officer turned his head blankly and looked at his colleagues. What happened? 9 minutes ago in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, the ocean seemed to be boiling. The seawater was rising and oscillating violently. It gradually separated from both sides. A huge ball with a diameter of thousands of kilometers rose slowly from the bottom of the sea. Africa. Cairo. This city is strange and amazing. Without any sound, it seems to have become a pure dead city. However, its color is extremely single. The whole city is like being poured with black paint, dark and cold. Until a certain moment, the city lived over. In fact, it was the darkness that came alive. Those blacks were palm-sized insects, densely packed in every corner of the city, motionless, but at this moment they all fluttered their wings, howling and gathering together. Flying into the distance with the most terrifying torrent of darkness on the land of Africa, patches of black beetles were running, and in the sky, some meteorite-like troop transporters landed, taking them away in batches. Some trapped survivors were surprised to find that they survived, and those killing insects gave up hunting them at the last moment, as if there was something more important. They withdrew in batches. A strong black soldier even saw Black Beetle kill him in front of his own eyes, but he stopped at the last moment when he raised his knife foot, gave up the attack, and withdrew without looking back. 7 minutes ago. North American battlefield. California border. A large number of U.S. soldiers and mechanized troops are gathered here, and everyone is serious and nervous, because just outside the California border, the Sky Brood attack group that has slaughtered 5 states is approaching here like a dark cloud. California is their 6th goal. From this position, one could even see the bright flashes of the dark tide surging in the sky. That was the countless howlers about to open fire. However, at this moment, the mighty Sky Brood battle group that came over suddenly turned around, gave up the attack, turned all to the direction of the Pacific Ocean, and withdrew at a high speed. The U.S. military commander at the scene could not believe the scene in front of him. When he received the news that the large-scale swarm combat clusters across the United States had suddenly changed their combat tactics, he still felt unbelievable. Are you crazy? These bugs are abandoning their battle results like this? What happened in the Pacific Ocean to make these insect swarms go crazy? 6 minutes ago, deep in the Arctic glacier, there is a rumbling loud noise, and a few gallo hidden here is slowly rising into the sky. Australian mainland. The 2 Sky Brood combat groups attacking here suddenly changed direction and advanced towards the Pacific Ocean at high speed. On the land of Australia, countless survivors were at a loss. Not knowing what happened 5 minutes ago in the coastal area of the Corio Peninsula, Commander who was ordered to participate in the battle, was stunned to watch several giant insect nests in the ocean suddenly retreat in a uniform order. It quickly disappeared from the field of vision, and his eyes were dull. A soldier asked in a low voice, "Master? The bugs have retreated? How is this possible? What happened?" Master Hu, however, looked thoughtful, and followed the knight into the depths of the Pacific Ocean. "It's the fleet. It should be the fleet of your excellency, Commander. Otherwise, I can't think of anyone on Earth who can make bugs like this crazy." 4 minutes ago, Jinling City. The ancient capital was once again in ruins, with buildings collapsing and the ground collapsing. Hundreds of whalers and skywatchers bombarded the city endlessly, trying to wring out every strand of human power that had been in hiding. The destruction never stops, and the Sky Hive hovers high in the sky, but there are still a large number of survivors and a military force in the city. That force used to be an emergency mixed command composed of 2 armies of the Jinling military region. It had a large-scale mechanized armed force and nearly 100,000 soldiers. At that time, they entered Jinling with only one purpose: to defeat the Sky Mother Nest. And the battle has continued so far, and the 2 armies are less than 1 army, and the large-scale tank group has been completely broken up. But the battle never ends. They will fight to the end with the Sky Brood here today. However, unexpected changes have taken place in the cold night. The Sky Watchers and Howlers who were patrolling at low altitude suddenly rose to the sky together, and the Sky Mother Nest, which had been calm and motionless, suddenly moved, and was about to leave here under the protection of many war insects. The local headquarters immediately issued an emergency order to drag this extremely powerful Sky Brood attack group to Jinling City at the expense of exposing several heavy firepower deployment points. However, what was unbelievable was that the swarm ignored their attack and did not even fight back. After paying a certain price, they quickly left the range of Jinling City. At the same time, the capital of China, Kyoto City. Raindrops of news are gathering here from all over the country and even the world. Since 6 minutes ago, the news received by the first important person has not been interrupted. After leaving the original war zone, these bugs who suddenly left their own war zone are all pointing their swords at one place at this moment, which is the center of the Pacific Ocean. The first man certainly knows what's in the Pacific Center. As for why the swarm would do this, it didn't seem difficult to guess. In the Kyoto Command Center, the first person personally drew a red circle on the Pacific core circle of the global electronic sand table, and then turned his head, looking at the remote communication screens of the people in the room and the many other regions connected. Shen Sheng said, "Although we haven't been in touch yet, and we haven't been able to confirm the real situation along the Chengdu city of Kyushu Island, we can confirm that it's the fleet." Su ran. "No, that commander, we can already guess that. A few minutes ago, the fleet defeated the swarm and the flying saucer on Kyushu Island, and now his fleet is turning to the core of the Pacific Ocean. The target should be the central brain of the swarm. Moreover, judging from the current reaction of the swarm, the strength of the fleet under the commander's command should far exceed the imagination of the swarm. They are not sure that they can defeat the fleet solely by relying on the troops guarding the central hive in the Pacific Ocean. Therefore, we see this super encirclement that involves the whole world and spans half a planet." Chapter 80. The sky in the Kyushu Island area is crimson, as if it is burning. The fleet is running at high speed over the Pacific Ocean. Su Ran adopted the simplest array of blades, with Yunchang leading the way, Fugalo on the frigates, one on the left and one on the right and half a body behind, followed by Kiao Xiangjun, who was guarded by 7 destroyers. On the Apocalypse they were driving at an altitude of 10,000 meters above sea level, advancing slowly as the flagship. The radar system of the Yunchang is fully operational, and with a main computer of the Yunchang, it deduces the route of the previously destroyed sea platform Mother Nest, and is looking for the location of the Pacific insect nest. Although they were hiding intentionally, their related stealth technology was not good enough. With the partial fuzzy data given by Huaxia and the parameter reference given by Fugalo, Su Ran quickly located the location of the brood. The location of the brood has been determined, and they seem to be moving. It is likely that they are undergoing a strategic transfer. Li Yilan gathered the information and said immediately, "Our communication device has been repaired, and we have just received a message from China. According to the information collected, at present, all large-scale swarm combat units are moving in our current direction on a global scale, with our fleet as the center of the circle, forming an encirclement spanning half of the Earth. Although it is impossible to determine the specific number and combat power of the enemy, but what is certain is that they have the ability to eat our entire fleet." Hearing this news, even if everyone was prepared, it was inevitable that they would be shocked at this time. This proves that we have found the right position. Su Ran was very calm because the greater the movement of the swarm, it means that the central brood is not sure that it can block the attack of the fleet. The encirclement is indeed huge, and the number and combat power of the swarm are large enough, but Su Ran has the information to get rid of the fire before they arrive. At the same time, Fugalo's communication request came. The screen was switched on, and what appeared on the bridge of the Yunchang was a praying mantis-like creature with a height of nearly 5 meters and 32 eyes. With a light, something like a pipe can be seen slowly wriggling. Although the screen is connected, The dialogue is still transmitted in the form of literal information. The spore life that has completely controlled the Fugalo sent a long series of text messages. This is Fugalo. The organs of these bugs are not suitable for human pronunciation. If we really communicate with you, you will sound like some weird dialect. How, strictly speaking, their species advantage is much stronger than yours. This is a living thing. This should be a species that is qualified to step into the universe. Suran glanced at it. At this time, the entire fleet had begun to turn slowly, and was gradually accelerating, advancing towards the determined position of the enemy's central brood. He said expressionlessly, "Stop talking nonsense." Well, you don't care about these. It was 2 months ago that we completely occupied this Fugalo, and the method of single-point erosion one by one is not feasible for the swarm. Therefore, we took advantage of the last peace talks opportunity, and we who boarded the ship successfully left seeds on Fugalo, quietly cultivated a large number of individuals, eroded the entire Fugalo in one burst, and completed its control without disturbing other broods. Of course, this is also related to the fact that Fugalo himself is in a high position in the swarm command system. However, in the past 2 months, the bug swarm seemed to have noticed something, and consciously blocked key information from this Fugalo. This time, we don't even know their arrangement on Kyushu Island. It seems that they are indeed very cautious and careful. They planned to use that flying saucer to try us out. They succeeded, but unfortunately, we are more inclined to you. The worm seems to be powerful, but it is. Stop talking nonsense. The veins on Suran's forehead throbbed. He suddenly discovered that the spore life is indeed very good at talking. When people communicated before, they were just you and me talking endlessly. Now that they have switched to written form, they have given them full room to play and chatter endlessly. So let's cut a long story short. After we defected, the swarm cut off all information contact with our Fugalo. We have no additional information for you, and what we have is basically outdated. However, we want to remind you that the central mother nest is the core of the insect swarm, where the queen is located. There are at least 15 insect nests guarding it, and 7 of them are functional insect nests that do not have combat effectiveness. The remaining 8 are called 8 gates in the swarm, and they are the central brood defense force in the swarm system. The one your people sunk in the Pacific Ocean before is a gate. In the ocean, there are at least 7 more. This is finally a bit of useful information. Suran's eyes darkened. Although he didn't personally participate in the annihilation battle of the mother nest on the offshore platform, he knew the firepower of the mother nest. There are 7 similar battle nests. At this moment, the dark night sky is being illuminated by a kind of purple. In the far sky, there is a large piece of purple jellyfish floating slowly towards this side. The number is so large that it almost blocks the sky and blocks the entire fleet. That is the electromagnetic jellyfish, the swarm combat unit that interferes with a shield. The whole fleet is ready for the battle. Incendiary bombs are ready. Suran gave the order in a deep voice to deal with this kind of thing. It is most effective to use fire. In the last Ice City War, Suran was too hasty and had insufficient firepower, but now it won't happen. The whole fleet opened fire, lighting up the entire sky, moving slowly, and the batch of purple electromagnetic jellyfish in the dense divisions didn't exist at all. The way to evade such an attack was quickly set ablaze and engulfed by the sea of flames. They didn't even get close to the fleet and were engulfed in flames in the sky. However, despite this, there are still a large number of jellyfish monsters floating in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, but the swarm obviously didn't want them to actually make a difference. It was just stalling for time because of their existence. The speed of the fleet has not really increased, and the information of the spore life is still coming quickly. We must remind you that the swarm still has one more preparation. As far as we know, they have a number 03 insect nest, which captures a large number of living people, clones and studies them, and has been conducting experiments on stripping dark energy perception and transferring dark energy capabilities, trying to obtain and open the dark energy field from human bodies. KPS, seeking genuine subscription. Chapter 81. Over the Pacific Ocean, fleets are coming out of the flames. The entire sky was burning, and those jellyfish monsters were ignited one by one, turning into flaming fireballs and falling from the sky, like comets, falling into the sea. The deep and dark sea water was reflected in fiery red. At the extreme end of his field of vision, Suran saw a worm nest slowly rising from the ocean. It was shaped like an upside-down mountain peak, and its volume was twice the size of the Ice City's mother nest. The seawater above it hangs down like a waterfall, and on its main body, from top to bottom, There are densely packed plasma cannons, which are flickering faintly. That is a door. The 8 gates are the gateways to guard the so-called central brood that is the topmost node that controls the global bug swarm and the entire bug swarm network. Such a door is enough to destroy any aircraft carrier battle group on the Earth, and deal a devastating blow within a few seconds. But today, it that destroys this huge brood had just risen from the deep sea when a dazzling ray of light tore apart the sky and the Earth, piercing through its head. On that was the main gun of the Cloud City. The main cannon that had been waiting for a long time fired instantly, and with one blow, it pierced through the hive head-on. The shield of the hive was wiped out in a flash, and the extremely powerful particle beam melted out in the center of it. A huge cavity with a diameter of hundreds of meters, and more violent destruction is transmitted inside it, which makes it crack inch by inch like broken porcelain, sinking slowly like a knocked-down Buzzsaw mountain, and crashing it fell into the sea again. And the plasma cannons on the main body went out one after another. One shot crushed and the fleet roared past above it, and the huge waves of hundreds of meters couldn't even touch the fleet. Judging from the feedback data, this brood has turned into a fire gourd from the inside. In the modeling picture, its inner core circle has turned red, and there are still a lot of life in it reactions, and apparently live bugs, but they are no longer Su-Ran's target. The fleet is skimming the sea. Report. Your Excellency, Commander. 3 unmoved insect nests were found in the deep sea area at 3 o'clock to our right and 30 nautical miles from our ship. Comparing the data, they are similar in size to the Ice City mother nest, and no large-scale energy response has been detected, and it is initially confirmed to be a functional brood. A fleet immediately reported. Li Yilin frowned and said, "Are we going to kill them?" Su-Ran shook her head and asked, "Where are the bug nests that are moving?" "They are heading in the opposite direction to us, that is, the direction of the American continent. However, they have carried out a certain degree of electromagnetic interference, and our ship cannot confirm their information in real time. Keep chasing." Su-Ran said in a deep voice, "Our target is the brain. If we don't take the brain down tonight, we can only escape from the Earth." Hearing these words, everyone couldn't help being awe-inspiring. The fleet is still on the move in the dark night. The swarm had laid out a large number of interception lines along the way, but they were all penetrated instantly by the main guns of the Yunchang. Traveling 170 kilometers forward, Su-Ran shot down 3 door insect nests. The fleet seemed to be running non-stop on the Pacific Ocean. Behind the fleet, the flames burned all over the line, and the whole world seemed to be engulfed by the fire of the end of the world. Throughout the whole process, the frigate, enlightenment, and even the destroyer had almost no chance to fire, and they had always played an auxiliary role. Watching Yunchang take the lead and lead the entire fleet to rush forward at high speed, whoever stops in front will be the main gun shooting under the main gun. The swarm is not even a one-hit enemy. Before this battle, Su-Ran made sufficient preparations and hoarded a large amount of war resources. He could still afford such consumption. Break through all the way, destroy the dead, and the swarm flees. These door insect nests are intended to intercept. Facing this far stronger power than them, it is even difficult for them to evade because he evaded and opened the front passage. Even if the main gun failed, Su-Ran would not take care of these insect nests anymore, but continued to run in the sky of the Pacific Ocean. The purpose of the insect swarm is just to delay the time. As long as they wait for a large group of their reinforcements to arrive, it is still unknown who will win this battle. Report. Your Excellency Commander, the movement direction of the target unit has changed, turning to the North Pole. What are they doing in the North Pole? No. At this distance, they will be overtaken by me before they reach the North Pole. Are you going to join reinforcements from the North Pole? Su-Ran said in a deep voice. Check to see if there are troops from the North Pole approaching here. Li Yilin shook her head. We can confirm it. The electromagnetic interference is very serious. The 4 door insect nests we shot down before were not completely destroyed. They built a shielding network covering thousands of kilometers along the way, which can bite their central mother. The nest is already the limit. Su-Ran was silent for a moment, then said, "Order the whole fleet to be vigilant. The real battle is about to begin." His eyes slowly fell back to his watch. It shows the number of resource points. 321 points. Before the start of the war, he used up almost all the resource points, and since the start of the war, he has been running all the way without stopping, and he has no time to collect the resource points. But it doesn't matter. Defeating the central mother nest today, thousands of swarms are all resources. If he is defeated today, he can only flee to the starry sky and haste and go to other planets to collect resources. Su-Ran raised his eyes slowly, and his pupils were reflecting the blazing fireworks. The fleet is moving forward. After that, the swarm seemed to give up interception, and no brood came to die. Therefore, The fleet was no longer hindered, the speed of advancement was greatly increased, and the distance between the enemy was getting closer and closer. Even the oceans are left behind. The distance is 300 nautical miles, 170 nautical miles away. The distance is 80 nautical miles, 50 nautical miles away. Report to your excellency, commander. The enemy brood cluster has stopped advancing. There is a heavy fog ahead. At this moment, many captains and commanders of the battleships raised their heads one after another, and saw that in the black distance, above the sea, a monstrous mist was filling the sky. Covering a radius of 30 nautical miles, Sue Ran lowered her head and looked at the radar in the radar display. The only 4 remaining units of the swarm are located in this mist. The 4 worm nests are 4 small dots on the radar, flickering, disappearing from time to time, and appearing in another direction on the radar the next moment. But since just now, their movement range has been limited to this thick fog on board the Enlightened One. Qiao Xiangchen stared at the mist and said solemnly, "Look, they are waiting for us. Ask for a wave of support." Chapter 82, Silent Fog Sea. Chapter 82, Sea of Silent Fog. North Pacific Ocean. The fleet was sailing into the mist. This is not an ordinary smog. What is scattered in the space are particles with a special blocking effect. Models are being analyzed, accessibility maps are being built, projections are being built. The main computer intelligence brain of the Yunchang issued a series of prompts. The holographic screens located at several corners on the edge of the bridge brighten up one after another, working together with the projection equipment. In just a few seconds, the interior of the bridge was changed, allowing everything around the Yunchang to appear clearly in everyone's eyes. Around the indestructible fog was filtered out by the computer, and the mechanized and intelligent interior of the bridge made of steel disappeared completely, replaced by a fully immersive exterior projection. Above the head is the starry sky, and under the feet is the Pacific Ocean with dark currents. The enemy ship has been marked. The 4 mother nests are in the far sky. They have completely left the sea, and are located in the 4 directions of the sky like floating islands. Among them, the 3 giant gate battlefield nests are located at an altitude of 10,000 meters, equal to the fleet, in the north, west, and south, facing the fleet headed by Yunchang in 3 directions, and the distance between each other is more than 5 kilometers. The body of the island-shaped brood is cold and tough, but some positions are slightly blurred, as if distorted or mosaic. That's because of the influence of electromagnetic interference. The information network composed of Yunchang and other members of the fleet could not fully scan them and build a complete model. In addition to the 3 gate war nests, below, at an altitude of only about a kilometer from the sea level, there is also a meteorite-shaped odd-shaped nest, slightly ups and downs, located in the 3 war nests. On the further back area of the brood, that is the central brood. Figalo immediately sent a message to confirm this. That is the hub node of the swarm network, the so-called brain. Figalo has relevant information. There should be a queen in there, who is the absolute ruler and commander of the swarm. However, according to the data, the queen has a cutting-edge subspace ship. Although half of the spore life has penetrated into the bugs, the information they can provide is also very limited. Suran doesn't know if they really have limited knowledge, or if they don't want to tell him so much at all, but this doesn't matter to him. Meaning, because he can't order the life of the spores, and he also understands that it is impossible for the 2 parties to become so-called heart-to-heart comrades in arms because of the cooperation at this moment. Therefore, he only nodded his head slightly. Thank you for the information. You should have also received my shared screen, right? They obviously intend to ambush us, and they don't seem to know that they have been exposed, but once we open fire, we will be exposed. The advantage at this moment, so I hope that the moment we fire, we can achieve the greatest results and shoot down at least 2 of their war broods. Although the spore life and himself are not of the same mind, Suran knows that the spore life may have other ideas, but they also hope that the final result will be the defeat of the swarm, and that result will be beneficial to the spore life. Suran and Fugalo quickly formulated a strategy here, while Li Yilan notified the whole ship through the internal communication network of the fleet. Attention all fleet units. Our ship has shared the latest battlefield modeling with you. Obstacles to the field of view have been filtered out, but I want to reiterate that this is computer modeling, and deviations and errors are very likely to occur, and even other targets that our radar system cannot detect. Please be vigilant and deal with it carefully. The fleet headed by Yunchang is slowing down. From the perspective of the outside world, at this moment, the entire fleet has been engulfed in overwhelming fog. Only the flickering navigation lights on the battleships occasionally penetrate thick fog, flickering in the desolate night sky on the other side of the mist that covered the sky and the sun. The muzzles of the war nests located in the south, north, and west directions of the fleet were slowly adjusting, and the stern rays of light danced and were about to fire. The central brood located below continued to retreat and swept to a safer place. At the same moment, the fleet is also showing its fangs. The main gun of the Yuncheng began to charge, and in the darkness, the muzzles of the electromagnetic gun and the short-range gun were slowly adjusted, facing a nest facing south. Fu Gallo and Lin Yuandong's frigate left the fleet obliquely, leading the Enlightenment and many destroyers through the fog, facing a warhive on the west side, and the main guns on each battleship were ready. Among them, the hatches of the missile launch bays opened one after another, and the black muzzle protruded from the battleship with the rise of the armor plate. The serial painting of the Enlightenment and the destroyer is looming in the fog. The fog, covering a radius of 30 nautical miles, is filled with the roar of engines, the movement of warships and war broods, and the rolling and rolling of layers of fog, as if giant dragons are playing in the fog. And other than that, the space is surprisingly quiet in the bridge of Yuncheng. Under the holographic model constructed by the computer, the fog does not exist at all. In the field of vision of all levels of units on the bridge, the three war broods are far away. The turbo laser cannon has been calibrated, and the target is just south of the enemy's brood. Kinetic energy artillery and short-range artillery are ready. The high-temperature molten nano cloud has been loaded into the torpedo system and is ready to launch at any time. Our ship's 4 vertical missile launch arrays are ready, and 256 missiles have been loaded. The supply of the power system is normal, the thruster module is operating normally, and the shield continues to be offline. The communication is normal, and the electromagnetic interference is within the acceptable range. The preparation of the main cannon of the superpower particle cannon is complete. The energy storage is 100%. The last calibration position, the target is due south to the enemy's war nest. Please issue an order to fire. Su Ran's eyes were heavy. Sitting on the bridge, he could feel the slight tremor of the giant steel beast under his body, like a fierce tiger about to pounce with fury. But he didn't give the order immediately, but looked to the other side. Fu Gallo sent a message. The designated location has been reached. Don't hit the wrong person. Su Ran knew that the Spore Life was talking about the incident on the northeast plain. Lin Yuandong's communication is being connected. Our ship is ready. The warships of all levels in the fleet have arrived at the designated combat positions, and the weapons have been prepared, and they have not been discovered by bugs yet. Su Ran said, fire in 3 seconds. Immediately, on the public screen of the entire fleet, the countdown began. 3, 2, 1. Chapter 83 Strangling. Chapter 83, Strangling. Su Ran took a deep breath. The flash tore through the clouds in an instant. A flash of Yuncheng's main gun became the prelude to the battle, and the domineering particle beam pierced through the thick fog that could not be melted away. The water vapor and fine particles in the mist created by the swarm evaporate instantly. From a visual point of view, it seems that the ubiquitous mist is fearing something. Where the particle beam passes, it retreats crazily. Of course, if you can't see the fog in the bridge, you can't see this scene. The picture was distorted for a moment as the particle beam galloped, but the blow landed successfully. The high-speed advancing particle beam destroyed the outer shield of the warhive in the air, which was located directly south of the Yuncheng, and shot it through the air, as if it was a spear of light, nailing it to the sky inside. In the other direction, the fleet headed by Fu Gallo and the frigate also opened fire instantly, attacking the war nest facing west with all their strength, but their results were not so obvious. Whether it was the main gun or the missile, most of them were blocked by the opponent's shield. It was intercepted, and the outer shield of the warbrood shone fiercely, and it was as bright as a moon in the sea area. And almost at the same moment when the fleet opened fire, the 3 warbroods also opened fire at the same time, and the blue plasma rays flew in the air, and the 2 sides instantly entered a state of exchange of fire. The fleet headed by Fu Gallo and the frigate immediately entered a stalemate and fierce battle. But at the position of Yuncheng, the outcome of the battle was completely one-sided. The moment Yuncheng's particle beam main gun fired, the Yuncheng, which had been sailing slowly, began to accelerate after the particle beam pierced through. A huge hole was opened in the center of the insect nest in the south direction. Looking inside from this gap, half of the war insect nest turned crimson red. It is falling slowly. It was as if a palace in the sky was falling. However, it has not lost all its functions. The plasma cannons located on the edge of this war nest still have combat effectiveness and are firing at the fleet. In this war nest, there are also a large number of flying combat insects killing out, far away. Looking at it, it looks like a small dark cloud, but for Su Ran and Yuncheng, it could no longer pose any threat. The Yuncheng speeded up suddenly, and the whole steel warship opened fire. All kinds of flashing missiles with trailing flames flew in the air, and the warship crossed several kilometers of space in a few breaths, and arrived in front of the war brood. He bumped into it in the howling artillery fire. The Yuncheng crashed directly through the gap blasted by the main gun, and the 4 dual-link turbo laser guns fired forward, and the missiles shot out as if they were free of money. The Yuncheng carried a flame. Almost in just one breath, it pierced through this huge nest, like a bright line of fire, and behind the Yuncheng, the huge war nest disintegrated in the air, split into pieces, and turned into burning mass. The huge fireball fell magnificently, and behind them, the other 2 war hives were in full fire with the fleet, and the sky was full of explosions and directed energy rays, changing the brilliance reflected in the fog. However, the Yuncheng sank suddenly, and took advantage of the opportunity of the fleet behind and Fugallo, who was controlled by the swarm, to drag the other 2 war broods, and rush directly to the bottom central brood, kill it, blow it up. This is Suran's only goal in this battle. The main gun is recharged. Shoot the missile out for 1 round first. In the 4.88 vertical missile launch bay, missiles with a length of 7.6 meters dragged their tail flames into the air. A series of shocking trajectories flew towards the hub nest below, but one by one exploded at a height of about 10 meters away from the opponent. The flames of the raging flames spread like eggshells, outlining the shape of the outer shield of the hub hive. Suran's eyes were red, and he believed that a single blow from the main cannon would surely destroy it on the surface of the sea. But at this moment, a series of loud noises suddenly sounded in the space, and the warship's siren sounded instantly. The location of the enemy ship has been detected. It is a swarm Fugallo battleship. In the holographic picture inside the bridge of the Yuncheng, the figure of a Fugallo, which is only about 2 kilometers away from the Yuncheng, is being outlined by the computer, as if it appeared out of thin air, bombarded Suran's battleship. And if it is viewed from the outside, it can be seen that this Fugallo has been traveling through the fog, in a state of complete invisibility, and has not been detected by Suran's detection system at all, until Suran's entire fleet opened fire, at high speed. After killing a war brood in seconds, it suddenly showed its fangs, approached quickly from the mist, and opened fire suddenly. It was precisely because it was not detected by the detection system that the Fugallo was not shown on the holographic screen of the bridge at all. It was not discovered by the fleet until it opened fire at this moment. And not only that, just diagonally below the fleet, there is also a second swarm Fugallo battleship appearing, fully firing, bombarding the Yuncheng. All the weapons of the Yuncheng were directed at the central mother nest, and they were unable to defend it the first time, and the targets of the 2 Fugalists were both the second half of the Yuncheng. Under continuous blows, the city's hull was penetrated in many places. The flames lit up, and thick smoke rose from every corner of the battleship. High in the sky, among the frigates, the situation of the Yuncheng was reported almost immediately. Lin Yuanduang suddenly changed color, stood up abruptly, and looked in the direction of his feet. With the start of the battle, the mist was stirred up and divided like a stirred jelly. Looking down from Lin Yuanduang's position, one could see the Yuncheng with smoke and flames, being captured by 2 ships. The swarm Fugallo battleships bombarded from left to right, throwing a large number of hull structures all the way, causing severe damage, but still swooping towards the central hive in the sea at high speed. The Yuncheng was trembling violently. The shield was burned out in the previous battle, and it has not been repaired so far. Every blow from Fugallo was actually bombarded on the ship. Report. The number 3 turbo laser gun on the left wing has been blown up. The Yuncheng trembled violently, and all kinds of battle damage reports came like raindrops. Even the bridge was splashed with sparks. I don't know which line had a serious failure, and the holographic screen went out for 3 points. One of them. Yuan Lichen was inexplicably panicked, and said, "Your Excellency Commander, what shall we do?" Suran sat on the violently turbulent bridge, listening to the harsh siren, but still only looked at the central hive below. He spoke in a deep voice, and said decisively and harshly, "The main gun is calibrated. Give me all the firepower to intercept those 2 Fugalists. Guard the main gun and power module. I must shoot out this gun. Destroy it." Chapter 84. Destroy. Li Yilin was terrified when she heard that. Suran's order was to list the bridge as a secondary protection target, and to fight to the death with his central brood at all costs. However, Suran thought very clearly that he had no way out when the Yuncheng was lifted off today. If he took a step back and let the swarm recover, he would never be able to make peace with the fleet again. Today the fighter plane is in the hands of the fleet, so we must decide the outcome. The temperature inside Yuncheng continued to rise, but Suran gritted her teeth. Waiting for the main gun to finish charging. The short tens of seconds seemed extremely long. At this moment the Yuncheng was burning, and the powerful firepower of the two Fugilis was fully displayed at this short range, almost tearing the entire Yuncheng to pieces. The outer armor was severely damaged, and the short-range cannons on both sides were hit in many places, many of which had turned into raging fireballs. The plasma cannons of Yalan were still fired one by one from the two swarm Fugalo battleships. Shootout, bombarding the Cloud City in some internal corridors of the Yuncheng. The outer wall of the battleship around some running soldiers or logistics personnel was directly blasted, and the people inside were either instantly engulfed in flames, or thrown into the sky together with broken and burning parts and fragments, screaming and falling downwards. And the naval guns of the Yuncheng were also fully firing, bombarding the Fugalo warships on both sides. Guarding the nest in the center in the sky, Lin Yuanduang and Qiao Xiangjun almost unanimously ordered the warships to transfer the entire fleet to help, but at this time, they were supposed to intercept the Warbrood, but were instead intercepted by two Warbroods. The Warbrood's firepower is powerful, its size is huge, and its fleet can't cross it at all, and their fleet may even be wiped out if they break through forcibly. Qiao Xiangjun had just watched helplessly as Huhu's destroyer was shot down and fell into the ocean below with billowing smoke. Lin Yuanduang sent messages over and over again to the Fugalo that was controlled by the Spore Life, hoping that they could help open a life and death line and rush to the rescue of Su Ran's Yuncheng, but the Spore Life remained motionless as if it hadn't received his message at all. The Fugalo they controlled had been in a very high position and continued to attack the other two Warbroods. Seeing this, how could Lin Yuanduang not understand that Fujialo did it on purpose? They wanted to watch Su Ran and the swarm die together. Damn it! Lin Yuanduang punched the control panel in front of him, and just watched Su Ran's Yuncheng fly all the way down, obviously under a piece of sky, separated by only a few thousand meters, but like a natural moat that cannot be crossed. Lin Yuanduang suddenly remembered the scene of Chu Xiangdong crashing into the enemy ship with his bomber. The boss gritted his teeth, but couldn't think of a way out. These tens of seconds flew by and such a seesaw. Bright rays flew out from the main gun of the Cloud City. The particle beam connects the sky and the ocean, and when viewed from a distance, it looks like a ray of skylight, piercing through the thinning fog and falling into the dark and deep sea. Without looking at the result, Su Ran directly took over the control and forcibly raised the battleship. The Yuncheng rose from the ground amidst the wailing sound, and with a turning point beyond the limit, it raised the altitude from the far point of the strike and flew far away. Sweet. The entire Yuncheng was trembling, every layer of structure seemed to be creaking, and a series of flames erupted in the bridge, as if the battleship would be torn apart at any time. But Su Ran succeeded. He forcibly reversed the course of the battleship. After a brief collision with the Fugalo, he quickly raised his altitude and opened the distance. The two Fugilis were even thrown away by a distance in an instant. As soon as the blow was successful, Su Ran was ready to lift up quickly and distanced herself to avoid Fujialo's shooting. The central insect nest has disintegrated and turned into another blooming fireworks in the Pacific Ocean, but the ones here are all high-level insect nests. From the current point of view, none of the insect nests has stopped attacking. Because of this, Su Ran faintly felt that there was something wrong. Was it true that this place was full of high-level insect nests? Self-judgment and attack even without a brain? Or because of the wrong target? That's not the central brood at all, no. This is impossible. With a confirmation of Spore Life, this must be the central brood of the swarm. There is absolutely no mistake. The Spore Life might really want to watch me die, but they never want me to die before the swarm. What they want most is that I die with these worms. It is absolutely impossible for me to fight a fake swarm center. Su's thoughts raced through Ran's mind. He considered countless possibilities in an instant, and passed them all. However, Su Ran, who was bitten by the two Fugilis, had no way to confirm the situation, and it was even impossible to launch a second round of attacks. Of course, even if he launched a second round of attacks, he didn't know who to point at now, so he had to dodge as soon as possible the attack of the two Fugilis. Otherwise, before Su Ran can confirm the real situation, he will be shot down from the air, and he will die without a place to die. If the Cloud City crashes, then there's nothing left. Knowing the power of the main guns of the Yuncheng, the two swarm Fugalo battleships bite extremely tightly, leaving no room for the powerful firepower of the Yuncheng, and their maneuverability is not inferior to that of the severely damaged Yuncheng. The city, pressing down on the Yuncheng, was unable to rendezvous with the fleet, so Su Ran could only circle the battlefield in circles first, and seesaw with these two Fugilis, looking for the possibility and opportunity to counterattack. And at this time, Li Yilan saw the condition of the nest under her feet through the holographic screen. The central brood is exploding magnificently. However, in Li Yilan's eyes, A shadow suddenly flew out of the exploded central mother nest at lightning speed. And the first to catch up to the burning Yunchang in one breath accompanied by a loud noise, Li Yilin immediately found another new impact report among the many alarms. The damage to the 17th deck of the Yunchang's flank has intensified, and unregistered objects have invaded. Li Yilin glanced at Su Ran in front. At the moment Su Ran was trying her best to maintain the peace of the battleship, manually closing some severely damaged areas, and even constantly changing the direction of navigation to avoid the attack of the two Vogelus. Li Yilin gritted her teeth, and immediately dispatched the nearest marines to approach. The position of the 17th deck is damaged. Something unknown has entered the battleship. Please go there immediately, confirm its subject, and report it immediately. And at this moment, the team that is closest to the damaged number 17 deck is Zhu Feng's team. In this case, the role of their battleship inland warfare team is almost zero, and they can only help to fight fire. Zhu Feng was originally ordered to hunt down a strange-shaped creature that escaped from the damaged battleship and was captured from a flying saucer before. It was quite close to deck 17. When the high-speed aircraft crashed in all the way, they were shaken. Almost fell. At this time, after receiving Li Yilin's transfer order, Zhu Feng directly raised the cutting-edge directed energy rifle in his hand, and immediately led the team of 12 people left to the target location. During this process, the hull vibrated violently. However, Zhu Feng and the others had received strict training, so the impact on them was not so severe in such a bumpy environment, and when they approached the target position, Zhu Feng changed his color slightly. It was an oval object about 7 or 8 meters long. From the appearance, it looked like a meteorite with a smooth surface, and no power device was seen. But Zhu Feng immediately realized that it was a boarding ship. Bandit. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 85 Intruder. Chapter 85, The Intruder in the Sky. Another war brood ignited. Its shield was broken by the frigate 2 seconds ago, and the ensuing bombardment pierced through its defenses. At this moment, it was constantly lowering its altitude, but the fleet failed to breathe a sigh of relief. Because another war brood crashed over in an instant, forcibly dividing the battlefield, and holding back the fleet's support for the Yunchang. Why did the central mother nest explode, and they still haven't stopped moving? Lin Yuanduang was anxious and angry. He watched Su Ran's Yunchang being bullied and killed by two Fugelus, and volleying around the battle circle. The situation became more and more urgent, and the Spore Life Control, although the Fugalo was firing in full force, it only protected itself and aimed at the war brood, and did not intend to influence the situation of the battle or rush to Su Ran's aid from here. Even the signal received from the Yunchang became a zilala noise as the primary target of attack. The communication device of the Yunchang was completely destroyed. This time, looking down from a high altitude, the nearly 2,000-meter-long giant battleship was covered with scars, and it seemed that it might fall from the sky at any time. In this situation, Lin Yuanduang's shortcomings were revealed. The more anxious he was, the harder it was for him to make up his mind until Qiao Xianchen sent a message. Old Lin, we can no longer take care of Su Ran. The destruction of the center probably does not mean that the swarm system is completely paralyzed, but there are only so many enemy troops here. Blow up these two war nests, and go to support immediately. While speaking, Lin Yuanduang saw Qiao Xianchen's awakener pull up to the altitude, and led two destroyers to outflank the war nest that blocked them, pouring firepower crazily. At the same moment, the Cloud City was burning. The damage to Yunchang is getting more and more serious. As early as in the starry sky, the interior of Yunchang was almost turned upside down by the flying saucer, and it was barely repaired. Now it is hit again, and the speed of destruction is extremely high. Quick, of course. The two swarm Fugalo warships that besieged the Cloud City were not happy either. Although the main gun of the Yunchang can't bombard the two swarm warships at close range, the other firepower is not covered. Since the Yunchang entered the war, the main gun has basically opened the way, and the consumption of other ammunition is still very limited. At this time, I don't want to spill money like money. I have been bombarding these two Fugelus in the air for such a long time. Seeing the shields on the two twisted and lightning-shaped Fugelus begin to strobe light, the shields, it seems that it may disappear at any time. As soon as their shields were worn away, Su Ran was ready to immediately transfer the battleships to counterattack. At this moment, he was trying to maintain the course of the Yunchang, avoiding the continuous bombardment of the two enemy ships as much as possible. The bridge is already busy. Everyone is dealing with the situation in each position, but Li Yilin was staring at the position of Deck 17. The internal monitoring of the battleship over there has been completely destroyed, and the mission cameras of Zhu Feng's tactical team are only available, and the pictures sent back are quite blurry. But Li Yilin has been following up the situation here out of a certain intuition. She felt a little uneasy, as if some creature was approaching. This is more like the natural intuition of animals at this very moment. The interior of the Yuncheng, which was violently bumping and trembling, was on the 17th deck. Zhu Feng is slowly advancing with his tactical team. The Yuncheng, which was traveling at high speed, tore through the airflow and made a sound like howling wild beasts, and there was a large amount of airflow swirling at the gap here. If you don't pay attention, you may even be swept out. Fortunately, as combat personnel in the battleship, Zhu Feng and his tactical boots have adsorption devices under their tactical boots, which can firmly adsorb them into the steel-made corridor of the Yuncheng. But at this moment, the corridor on the 17th deck was also distorted and deformed, but Zhu Feng and the others approached the oval meteorite-shaped aircraft step by step as if they were facing a big enemy. With a dull buzzing sound, a circular opening suddenly cracked on the side of the aircraft, slowly rising upwards, revealing a black hole. All attention, Zhu Feng reminded in a deep voice through the tactical helmet. At this moment, they received an order from Li Yilin. I am deploying a land killer closest to you, please be cautious. Just as Zhu Feng was about to reply, he heard a strange whistling sound from the field. The sound was very strange. It didn't sound like a bug, but it was like some kind of musical instrument, but it was mixed with a whistling wind, and it seemed quite inconspicuous. If Zhu Feng wasn't fully alert, it would be impossible for Zhu Feng to notice it. What Zhu Feng realized was the danger in Li Yilin's reminder. The tactical captain who was born in the fleet couldn't help but grip the gun more tightly. His palms were already covered in cold sweat. Fortunately, wearing tactical gloves would not affect his holding the gun and shooting. Receive, Zhu Feng replied, and made two tactical gestures, telling the 6 players to lean back, while he led the other 5 players forward, using them as the fixed point, forming a pyramid triangle line approaching 1 meter further. And at this moment, something finally came out of the black hole's oval-shaped meteorite cabin. The first is a hand. The moment he saw that hand, not only Zhu Feng's eyes were dull, but even the soldiers around him were shocked. But at this moment, the screens in front of Li Yilin on the bridge all turned into a black screen with no signal input. She quickly raised her head and looked at the holographic screen that she had already called up and displayed on one side. The display on it, seeing that the vital signs of the remaining 12 members of Zhu Feng's team are all in good condition at this moment, Li Yilin was slightly relieved. She noticed that not only the screen transmission was interrupted, but even the communication was interrupted. Check the communication lines. Li Yilin's first thought was that the battleship was seriously damaged, and the lines on her side were damaged. While ordering an immediate inspection, the other side immediately prepared to activate her personal wireless intercom device, using the communication method of the city number system to contact Zhu Feng. She was extremely disturbed. While doing this, she raised her head and looked at Su Ran above, ready to report the situation here immediately. However, it was at this moment that the Yuncheng suddenly shook violently, and the crew in charge of the fire control system on the outer circle of the bridge let out a brief exclamation, and Su Ran's voice spread throughout the ship, "Shoot them down." Li Yilin turned her head in surprise, and noticed that the shields of the swarm few Gallo battleships on both sides of the Yuncheng were being extinguished one by one. At this moment, the battle situation began to reverse. Chapter 86: Fire Clouds at Sea. Chapter 86: Fire Clouds on the Sea. The Yuncheng rammed the few Gallo battleship on the left obliquely, and the torpedo that had been waiting for a long time finally roared out, but the target was the few Gallo battleship on the right, relatively far from the cloud city. It contained the high-temperature molten nano cloud that once destroyed the Sky Mother nest on the northeast battlefield. The turret on the right side of the Yuncheng fired at the hull line at this moment, opening up a life and death line for the high-speed torpedo, and making all the interceptions of the few Gallo on the right go in vain. At such a short distance, there was almost no possibility for the few Gallo to evade under Su Ran's gaze. He watched with his own eyes that the torpedo hit the swarm few Gallo battleship on the right. It took about 2 seconds for the ring of fire to erupt at the origin. The temperature was rising rapidly, and the nanomachines began to operate. Although this few Gallo is still trying to fly at this moment, everyone knows that it is finished. Meanwhile, the Yuncheng, under the helm of Su Ran, continued to the left, forcefully and domineeringly smashing away the few Gallo battleship on the left, and the 2 armor plates on the left side of the Yuncheng were under violent impact and scraping. He was thrown and flew into the bleak night sky in the blink of an eye. The Fugalo also had to dodge urgently, but of course it would not be the scarred Yuncheng, but the terrifying nano-weapon that made it get out of the way, and it was bound to get out of the core-affected area immediately. The turrets of all levels on the Yuncheng opened fire in full force, keeping pace with the last Fugalo in the air, and bombarded each other. This scene seems to be a naval battle in the last century. Two giant ships with a length of more than 1,000 meters are shooting at close range at an altitude of about 5,000 meters from the sea level. Flying randomly in the air current stirred by the battleship is everywhere, and behind the two battleships bombarding each other, the Fugalo battleship hit by the high-temperature molten nano-cloud has been reduced to the background, and in the blazing flames, it has turned into a large mass of crimson molten matter like magma. The twisted lightning-shaped battleship completely disintegrated in the multiplication of nano-machines, and all the metal structures became their nutrients, and were quickly eaten up. At this moment, they were slowly falling into the sea below, and none of the war insects inside survived. The Yuncheng was shaking as if it had experienced an earthquake. The immersive holographic finger combat mode in the bridge was immediately offline and switched to normal control mode. Many control modules were even offline, the main computer had been burned, and the intelligent auxiliary control system was completely offline. Several crew members have even rushed to the front fort, preparing to manually control the offline fort, while Su Ran is doing his best to maintain the operation of the Yuncheng, taking over several combat units with one hand, not only maintaining the operation of the battleship, but also maintaining the battleship attack system. Li Yilin stabilized her figure, feeling the vibration of the Yuncheng. He still gritted his teeth and said, "Su Ran, something has landed from the central hive that we destroyed. It has been confirmed that it has invaded our ship." TXT novel. Same moment Zhu Feng couldn't believe his eyes, because the hand protruding from the oval Zerg flying machine was an arm very similar to that of a human. It was a slender, female arm. The color of the arm was somewhat silver gray, with some faint bright lines on it. Under the light of the fire near and far, it refracted the light like sequins used for makeup. This hand also has 5 fingers. The fingers are long and slender, and the nails are also that dull silver gray. It looks almost the same as a normal human being. The overall appearance looks somewhat unusually beautiful. Zhu Feng heard a few gasping voices, and he couldn't help thinking like that, is this a human being? There's nothing quite like a human being crawling out of a Zerg craft. Fortunately, as the captain, Zhu Feng still remembered his responsibilities and obligations. He immediately ordered, "Everyone is there, stay vigilant, and if the target shows an attack tendency, open fire immediately." Hearing what their captain said, everyone shivered slightly, and at this moment, that person just walked out of that dark round hole. That thing is indeed a humanoid creature. Her height is about 1.8 meters. She is a complete human female, and her figure can even be described as hot. She has no clothes on her body, and her skin is all in that silver gray state. In her body, the main body of her body was covered with a layer of black-red dense armor layer, like solidified magma, covering her body closely, giving her a wild feeling, but her face was surprisingly delicate. With a dull silver, the gray skin did not detract from her appearance, and her face had some kind of orange-red paint, with 3 stripes on each side of her face. Zhu Feng really thought that was the color when he first saw it. It was painting, but then he realized that it was some kind of strange organ, because they themselves could glow faintly. And not only that, her eyes are a pair of silver and white linear pupils, and behind her, there are 4 praying mantis-like knife legs about 2 meters long, growing from her back, and the magma-like armor with a light stroke. The steel corridor floor was torn apart, and her body was propped up from then on. What is this thing? Such thoughts flashed through Zhu Feng's mind. In the records of Huaxia and the fleet, although the forms of the swarms were not so peculiar that they were beyond human cognition, they always showed extreme differences. However, this time at this moment, how could something so human-like come out of such a Zerg aircraft? Moreover, No, it still came from the central hive that was destroyed by the battleship. However, at this moment, the woman suddenly raised her arm, and suddenly pulled it back into the void. What? A shrill scream sounded in Zhu Feng's ear, and almost instantly, a soldier standing behind Zhu Feng's left was pulled out by an invisible force that seemed to be generated out of thin air. Such a loaded gun with live ammunition and equipment could weigh more than 200 kgs. The warrior was thrown out of the battleship's opening like a weightless leaf, and fell into the sea below in the blink of an eye, and disappeared in an instant with a miserable howl. And the woman didn't even move her footsteps. Although Zhu Feng was born as an ordinary person, he has been with the fleet for so long, So of course he has insight. He realized right away, this is dark energy, as the airflow swirled. Zhu Feng's roar spread throughout the battleship corridor. Fire. Chapter 87 Unstoppable. Bullets are boiling in the narrow corridor. Flashes of hot directed energy rays. Stagger. Zhu Feng was retreating. In less than 10 seconds of the exchange of fire, he had lost 6 people. In an instant, there were only 6 people left in the tactical team of 12, and he was still retreating steadily. In contrast, that worm, or the woman, is moving forward step by step. It uses those 4 sharp blade legs as legs, and 1 step forward is a distance of several meters. But up to now, Zhu Feng and the others have poured out thousands of kinetic energy bullets and energy bullets, but they have not been able to stop its advance, whether it is a speeding bullet or a directed energy ray. When it is about 1 meter in front of it, it will be strongly bounced off by an invisible deflecting force field. So far, no bullet has successfully hit it. And Zhu Feng could see clearly that this half-human, half-worm woman didn't carry any advanced equipment at all, and was in a complete biological form. In this state, there was only one source of this shield, although in the fleet, dark energy has always been a shortcoming. But after all, Zhu Feng worked with Li Rui, the only awakened team in the fleet, and their team, and because of the trip to Korea, the relationship between them is pretty good. So Zhu Feng is very clear this layer of shield probably does not come from any kind of cutting-edge technology or Zerg technology, but dark energy. This is an application in the pure dark energy field. However, among any recorded ability users, even the strongest dark energy controller, no one can achieve this level in just a few breaths. The intercepted thousands of bullets, including energy rays, were all deflected by deflectors. This requires not only the cutting-edge control of dark energy, but also terrifying computing power. The temperature in the corridor of the broken warship continued to rise, but Zhu Feng's heart was extremely cold. The communication has also been interrupted. The situation here must be reported to the bridge as soon as possible. Such an unimaginable monster must be killed outside the bridge, otherwise the Yunchang will be finished. At this moment, he heard the rumbling sound of shaking the ground coming from behind him. Without turning his head, Zhu Feng knew that it was the land killer coming. The 6th rotation machine gun roared in an instant, and Zhu Feng watched that half-human, half-worm monster suddenly raise its arm, open its beautiful silver gray-skinned palm, and then squeeze it tightly. At that moment, Zhu Feng heard the whine of metal. The captain of a Marine Corps of the Cloud City turned his head in horror, and saw that the body of the huge land killer weighing several tons began to twist and deform. It seemed to be pinched by an invisible big hand, about to be squeezed into twisted massive scrap iron in the palm of the hand. Is this the level that living things can achieve? Zhu Feng grabbed a little soldier beside him, and hissed, "Hurry up! Run quickly, go to the bridge to inform Adjutant Li, and inform the commander." But the little soldier was also terrified, looking at Zhu Feng, but what he thought in his head was, "I ran away, Captain, what should you do?" But he was clumsy and didn't say a decent word. But Zhu Feng couldn't control that much anymore. He pushed the little soldier and said, "This is an order. Go quickly. Hurry up. You must inform your Excellency Commander. This monster," with a loud noise, the twisted land killer completely misfired, was thrown out on the spot, and hit the wall on the other side. Zhu Feng turned his head and looked at the half-human, half-insect monster calmly moving forward amidst the hail of bullets. His eyes were red. This monster must be intercepted and killed outside the bridge. The little soldier stared blankly at his captain, finally gritted his teeth, shouted, "Take care, Captain," and ran to the back without looking back. The half-human, half-worm monster looked up. Its cold linear pupils seemed to glance at the little soldier who was running away quickly, but it didn't take any action, as if it didn't care at all. But Zhu Feng raised his head, looked directly at the monster, held the gun tightly in his hand again, looked around, looked at those companions who fought bloody battles with him, and said in a trembling voice, "There are all of them, we charge, stop it." At this moment, everyone knew that it was impossible to leave the battlefield alive today. These soldiers roared one by one, followed Zhu Feng to charge forward. The guns in their hands were pouring out their anger non-stop. Everyone has understood that this is not blocking with guns, but filing with life in the rain of bullets. The woman with dull silver gray skin slowly raised her arms and pulled them slightly in the air. At this moment, the air froze and twisted. The entire corridor began to deform, tightened in the center, and was forcibly compressed by an invisible and terrifying force. In the terrifying creaking sound, twisted into a large group of steel twists, and even disintegrated and separated from the main body of the battleship, accompanied by howling winds flying out, and accompanied by another loud noise. The silver Gray-skinned woman jumped out of it, drawing a beautiful trajectory in midair, stabilizing on the fractured Yunchang. Then it raised its head, and a sneer slowly rose from the corner of its mouth. Boom, boom. The confrontation with the swarm battleship Fugalo still had no results. Suran lowered her head slightly. On the screen showing the status of the battleship, she noticed that the entire Yunchang had turned into a dangerous red, and called out. It flickered, and the various data on the side were changing every second, recording the damage of the battleship. The Cloud City was howling. There are powerful opponents both internally and externally. Suran gritted her teeth, but turned her eyes in another direction. That is the monitoring screen inside the Yunchang ship. In it, a half-human, half-insect monster with a dull silver-gray skin and a knife-legged back is advancing inside the battleship. Wherever it passes, destruction is everywhere. The structure was torn apart by her from the inside, and the combat teams along the way couldn't even touch it, but it was able to wipe out the fully armed and formally trained Marine team within a few breaths. Wherever it passed, the structure and modules of the battleship exploded inch by inch, and the flames and shock waves carried the fragments of the battleship and threw them out. In just 2 minutes, the damage it caused had surpassed that of the Fugalo enemy ship that was bombarding the battleship. The main gun system has completely collapsed. The life support cabin and the medical cabin have been turned into ruins. If this were in space, Cloud City would be over by this moment. The interior of the Yuncheng, which has been scarred after repeated battles, is no longer able to stop its invasion. Suran watched it advance, but what came to mind was the reminder given by the spore life. The swarm succeeded. This is the monster they created with human beings, war bugs with dark energy. Chapter 88 Confrontation. There was a rumbling noise coming from inside the battleship, even in the semi-enclosed bridge. Suran seemed to smell the smoke. The constant temperature system of the bridge has been out of control, and the temperature inside the bridge is continuing to rise. The vast majority of people on the bridge are already red-eyed. Everyone knows that this is the life and death moment of the battleship. Everyone is doing their best to maintain it, stick to the posts, and complete the tasks on their shoulders with great nervousness. But at this moment, Suran slowly stood up from her captain's seat. At this moment, the bridge seemed to have fallen into stagnation, and many crew members instinctively stopped their work, raised their heads, and looked at the person at the top. Their captain Yuan Lichen realized something and stood up. Suran glanced at him and smiled. Old Yuan, you cooperate with Li Yilin and lead everyone to evacuate. I just opened, and the number 1 escape pod has been destroyed, and the number 2 escape pod cannot be confirmed, but it is far away from the bridge. If it's too far away, take the number 3 escape pod. Yuan Lichen knew that it would be a waste of time to say one more word at this time. Judging from the current situation, without Fugalo, the half-human, half-worm monster rampaging in the battleship could kill the bridge in 2 minutes, completely destroy everything on the Yunchang. But even so, Yuan Lichen couldn't help asking, what about you? I'll stop it. Suran's response was very calm. Hearing these words, there was a deathly silence on the bridge, and many people instinctively looked at the monitoring screen inside the ship. Everywhere the monster went, the monitoring screen would turn black. Li Yilin asked in a trembling voice, you're crazy, you're courting death? Li Rui and the others suffered heavy losses just now. So many awakened people are useless. What are you going to do as a captain who can't use his abilities at all? Li Yilin's eyes were red. Sitting in her seat, she raised her head and looked at Suran, who was in the upper position with red eyes. Accompanied by Li Yilin's words, people on the bridge also spoke one after another. No. This is absolutely not possible. You are the captain, you are the commander. If you stay, what is that? Don't get carried away, don't get carried away. You are here, and the fleet is here. I'm going to intercept it. I'm going to intercept it. Your Excellency, Commander, you go. Yeah, let's go, you go. These crew members were blushing with each other, as if they were going to do something good to make a name in history. Rather than die, Suran looked up at the sky. The height of the Yunchang has been reduced to 2,000 meters. Looking up from this position, you can't see the whole picture of Lin Yuandong's fleet, but you can catch a glimpse of the flash of the explosion. They are still fighting. Don't worry. I can't die. I'm at level 18 of dark energy perception. Suran took a deep breath and ordered, now I'm giving the order as the captain of the Yunchang and the commander of the entire fleet. Deputy Yuan Lichen, the commander-in-chief, temporarily replaced my work, and now leads the retreat of the survivors of the entire ship, and waits for me to return after joining the fleet. Li Yilin wanted to say something, but at this time, Yuan Lichen came up from behind, held her shoulder, and said in a deep voice, I understand. I will bring the fleet and wait for your return in Xinjiang. Suran nodded at him, and while activating the dark energy armor covering her whole body, she strode down from the captain's seat, crossed the bridge, and arrived at the exit of the bridge under the eyes of countless people, opened the exit, and strode directly. "Okay, go out." Yuan Lichen directly issued a series of orders and began to evacuate the entire ship. Li Yilin couldn't help but ask Yuan Lichen in a low voice, "You let him go like this?" Yuan Lichen shook his head. "Let's go." Although Yuan Lichen is not a combatant in the fleet, he actually sees it very clearly. No one can stop the half-human, half-worm monster. The current problem is no longer a problem of many people. Someone must stop it or even solve it, otherwise, not only the Yunchang will be threatened, but the entire fleet that is currently in the sky and the other two war broods will probably be threatened. The current fleet is at the end of its strength, and its shields and armor are severely damaged. Under such circumstances, if it can destroy the Yunchang like this, and then break into other warships, it will definitely be able to destroy it. Assisted by warhives and swarm Fugalo warships, the whole fleet, that's it. Therefore, out of various considerations, Su Ran chose to do it himself. Yuan Lichen didn't know much about Su Ran's strength. He only heard from Li Rui that Su Ran had conducted a test in Xinjiang before. The Su Ran that Yuan Lichen knew was not a fool, let alone someone who would seek death, and Yuan Lichen also felt that Su Ran would not really make such a stupid act of sacrificing himself. Since he did this, he must have his assurance. Then, what Yuan Lichen can do is to cooperate with Su Ran to solve his worries. This is already the case with the Yuncheng, so it can be discarded today, but if the entire fleet is here today, no one can afford the consequences. Yuan Lichen was taking over the command of the entire ship, and began to gather the survivors in the ship, preparing to retreat. At the same moment, Su Ran was walking in the passage in the battleship. From here, you can clearly hear the sound of explosions from various positions of the battleship, rolling and reverberating in the battleship like thunder, the lights in the corridor of the battleship flickering, and the indicator lights and intelligent control platform are completely offline. Su Ran had just passed through two closed doors, separated from the cover of the core module of the main bridge and the shield module, and met a group of logistics personnel who had withdrawn from the front in the long and narrow silver corridor. There are not only the maintenance engineers of the Yuncheng, but also the medical staff on the battleship who escaped from the medical room. Everyone is disgraced, as if fleeing from a disaster. Seeing Su Ran here, they were all taken aback. Su Ran was the first to ask, "Have you received the order to retreat?" "Got it, got it." An engineer looked at Su Ran and asked in a crying voice, "Why are we withdrawing? Don't you want the Yuncheng?" "Yes." Su Ran smiled and said, "There will be bigger warships in the future." A female medical soldier said desolately, "Your Excellency Commander, today we turned around the space and the earth and fought tens of thousands of kilometers. Have we lost the battle? We saw the thing that invaded the Yuncheng. What is that?" "It's also a bug." Su Ran was slightly stunned, looked at the members of the fleet in front of him, and finally stopped because he realized that the thoughts of this female soldier may be the thoughts of many people now. Chapter 89. Please tell everyone. Why do you think so? Su Ran listened to the roar at the far end, and thought that she might have a little time, so she asked aloud, "Isn't it? Isn't it? Yuncheng, this is our flagship." The eyes of the female medical soldier who spoke were red. They weren't even that anxious to get out of here. Su Ran realized that they even wanted to stay at this moment and defend the Yuncheng until the last moment, even if it fell at that moment. Realizing this, Su Ran felt mixed emotions in his heart. He pursed his lips, remained silent for a moment, and said, "No. You are thinking wrong." "No." Su Ran shook her head and smiled calmly. "No. We are not defeated. From Xinjiang to space to Kyushu Island and then here, our fleet has traveled thousands of miles today and defeated the army of insects in Kyushu Island. We penetrated alien enemy ships in outer space, and now, we turn and attack, causing the swarms in the Pacific to flee. With such great achievements, who dares to say that we have lost?" Maybe it was because of Su Ran's calm tone, or maybe it was because of the numerous victories mentioned in these words. The expressions of the people in front of them gradually became more energetic. A look of pride appeared on his face again. "That's right, they beat those aliens and fled in embarrassment today. How could they be defeated? This makes the swarm of doomsday insects flee under the Yuncheng. How could it be defeated?" Su Ran said, "I understand what you are thinking. If this is the case, why should we abandon the Yuncheng? The answer is simple: we are too tired. No one is a perpetual motion machine. The fleet also has its limit, and the Yuncheng also has its limit. Its limit, although today is its first day on the battlefield, but it has experienced enough. This battle is too fast. We don't have time to repair our warships and adjust our status, but even so, just now, we still sank the central brood of the swarm in one go. We've settled the game. It's just that this warship can't go on with us. That's all. From today onwards, the swarm will no longer be a threat. The Cloud City can be destroyed, but I still need you alive. The fleet needs soldiers. Please keep your heads up, follow the retreating troops, and leave the Cloud City, because we have to fight for the future, for the stars and the ocean. In the flickering light, people stared at the commander in front of them, and no one spoke for a while. Boom, there was an earth-shattering roar in the distance. The roar was getting closer. Su-Ran smiled and patted the female medical soldier on the shoulder. What's your name? Me? Report to commander. I am Bian Yashuang, a medical soldier from the 3rd Detachment of the Medical Center of the Logistics Department of the Yuncheng. Tian Yashuang said loudly with a slightly red face. Yan Yashuang. Okay, I'll remember. Now you can go to the escape pod, and tell everyone that we are not defeated today. This is the task I entrusted to you. If this battle is over, you have not done well, I will take you as a question. Bian Yashuang nodded vigorously. These people supported each other and headed towards the bridge behind. The number 3 escape cabin is located in the front half of the Yuncheng, and there is a passage from the bridge that can be directly accessed. Trust them to arrive safely. After seeing them off, Su-Ran let out more breath slowly and turned around, but he didn't move because it is far end. At the end of this corridor, the closed automatic catch was suddenly twisted, and under some unimaginable force, it was directly torn apart and shattered on the spot. The woman with dull silver-gray skin was standing in the flickering light, with a raging flame behind her, like a devil stepping out of the karmic fire of hell. Su-Ran took a slight breath. The air was a little scorching hot, sucking it into his chest, making his blood seem to boil as well. If he knew Yuan Licheng's guess about the purpose of his initiative, then Su-Ran would definitely say, "You guessed Lao Yuan again, but you only guessed partly right." Su-Ran took the initiative to attack, indeed to save the fleet. Now, none of the entire fleet is intact, and the shields are almost all damaged. If this half-human, half-worm monster can kill the Yuncheng, it can naturally kill any battleship, and it depends on a few people to kill it. It's not enough to hold it back. There has to be a real hold on it. Now that the balance of the war has stabilized, the fleet and the 2 war broods are firmly in the upper hand, although the battle situation is tense. Any change at this time may force the fleet to perish. As Su-Ran said, it's not that they can't beat them, but they can't. The fleet has been fighting for too long today, and it is no longer possible to maintain its peak combat power. The crash of the Yuncheng was a foregone conclusion. Su-Ran didn't want to pay more losses, so he had to take the shot, because he was the only 18th level dark energy perceiver. Of course, what Li Yilin said was correct. Su-Ran would not use his own dark energy, but with his level 18 dark energy perception here, it is still possible to manipulate dark energy for some basic control. Su-Ran thought to herself, the superpower I spent 15,000 resource points on is still at the peak of human beings at level 18. Could it be that it can't stand up to the bloody stupid bug scolded by the spore life by experimenting with humans? The dark energy super soldier that came out, therefore, Su-Ran is standing here now. Of course, Su-Ran didn't have full confidence in how far he could go, so Su-Ran also put on the dark energy armor before the half-human, half-worm monster appeared. Su-Ran was still very anxious until this moment. Fuck, this is too pretty, isn't it? I also believe that it is the queen of the swarm. Although Su-Ran had seen the other party at various monitoring positions of the Yuncheng earlier, the feeling of seeing him on the spot was still different. This kind of wild and fierce feeling. If it was put on many years ago, Su-Ran would probably be a fan. Not now. Su-Ran raised her hand from afar. He was very guilty. If a human villain was standing in front of him at this time, he would definitely be angry, but the spore life had said before that the worms don't like to use that kind of communication, and this woman is obviously the kind of wars for the weapon. Su-Ran didn't want to procrastinate for time at all. Instead, she raised her hand and was ready to shoot. If you can't talk about it, I must take the lead. This stupid alien, of course, can take advantage of it. Although he became a commander and commanded the entire fleet, Su-Ran's wretched style of play has never changed, and he has always been proud of it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.